This wild system power fantasy starts when demonic invaders suddenly attack our Earth, and normal weapons fail, so humans build a program to summon legendary heroes, which brings forth mythical warriors from history to save the day in battle, like King Arthur himself, who appears ready to slice through the enemy, serving as an ultra-rare fighter wielding his legendary Excalibur sword to protect humanity. Meanwhile, a group of rookie hunters is quietly moving through the dark forest. But our main character is busy celebrating his incredibly lucky gacha pull, which immediately gets him scolded by his stealthy squadmates during the march, prompting him to quickly apologize to the veteran hunter leading their squad, who asks if this is the kid's very first mission in the field, while the veteran reflects on the 2 years of chaos since the invasion, asking if the young boy also lost his family to the monsters, which strikes a painful chord as our boy remembers his tragic past. But he refuses to let tragedy hold him back from his goals, because he has a massive dream keeping him motivated every single day, making the veteran expect some noble quest for vengeance against the demons, only for the kid to reveal his dream is collecting every gacha legend, since he desperately needs cash to pay off his heavy gaming debts, leaving the entire squad completely dumbfounded by his terrible life choices in this crisis. And the veteran warns him that normal weapons won't cut it against real demons. Our boy reflects on the gifted hunters, realizing they live in a completely different reality, starting from the day of the invasion when 2 otherworldly forces suddenly appeared on Earth, one being the hostile demons, and the other being friendly otherworldly people who merged with us, allowing normal humans to acquire powerful combat skills directly from these magical visitors, which turn them into the elite gifted warriors who are capable of slaying demons. Since our boy lacks the money or connections to buy skills, he plays mobile games instead, specifically summoning legendary heroes like Joan of Arc, the famous savior of France, who started as a simple shepherdess, guided by angels to rescue her homeland, leading armies into battle at just 17 years old to save her country from destruction. And now she stands ready to purge the demons under our main character's command. Naturally, the kid and his little companion are absolutely thrilled about this guaranteed victory, prompting him to confidently order his new ultra-rare summon to attack the approaching monster, only for her to summon a massive glowing blue defensive barrier instead of striking, proudly declaring that this support shield is actually her absolute specialty skill in battle. This immediately sends our boy into a panic because defensive skills completely overlap with his companion, foremost to ask if she has any offensive moves, which she happily denies, explaining that the game developers falsely advertised her as a fighter when she is actually a healer, which makes perfect historical sense since she mostly just waved a flag to inspire troops. She even points out the tiny warning text on the gacha banner confirming her support class, leaving our poor main character utterly devastated by his useless zero-damage legendary pull, while the monster laughs at Joan's useless flag and launches a vicious surprise attack, slicing right through the air to strike our main character's veteran squadmate, leaving the poor veteran hunter heavily wounded and coughing up blood on the ground. But Joan quickly steps in, reminding everyone that protecting her summoner is her top priority, immediately activating her level 3 healing magic to mend the veteran's severe injuries, instantly restoring his health in a sudden flash of brilliant light, making our boy absolutely stunned by the sheer speed of her recovery spell, as she prepares to unleash her next major defensive ability to protect them, invoking the powerful blessing of the Archangel to shield the entire party, deploying a massive level 4 barrier to block any incoming attacks. Although the defense is absolutely top tier, they still cannot deal any actual damage, meaning they will eventually get overwhelmed unless they can summon an offensive warrior, prompting his little companion to remind him about the game's hidden mission rewards. Unfortunately, none of the standard combat missions have actually been completed yet, but he spots a special summoning quest that rewards a single magic stone, enabling him to quickly claim it after Joan uses her skills 3 times. With the stone secured, he immediately initiates a brand new gacha roll for a warrior, only for a red warning screen to pop up saying his inventory is full. This forces our devastated main character to make a truly heartbreaking decision, tearfully deleting his ultra-rare Joan to free up space for the next pull. Joan is absolutely horrified as she realizes she is being deleted to free up inventory space, recalling her tragic historical execution which apparently still haunts her digital soul to this day, begging our main character to remember her even after she gets sent back to the server, leaving our boy to frantically apologize while she completely pixelates into nothingness. Seeing their defense disappear, the angry monster immediately lunges forward to finish them off, forcing his little companion to quickly step up and deploy her own elegant barrier, which successfully blocks the strike and earns her some major praise from our relieved hero, who wastes absolutely no time and immediately initiates his next high-stakes gacha roll, unleashing a massive glowing magic circle that fills the dark forest with bright purple light, though both of them suddenly panic over the terrifying possibility of pulling Joan all over again, since our boy fully expects the game developers to mess with him out of pure malice. But their anxiety turns into pure hype when a high-tier summon is officially confirmed. Out of the blinding flash of light, a massive and powerful silhouette slowly begins to emerge, revealing a legendary warrior clad in a lion pelt and holding a giant wooden club, who is officially revealed to be the ultra-strong Greek fighter Hercules himself, leaving our main character and his companion completely starstruck by this legendary pull. as our boy confidently orders his new powerhouse to absolutely demolish the attacking monster, prompting the mighty hero to lock his eyes onto the target with absolute focus, while a blazing aura of fire erupts around him to signal his battle readiness, sending his massive club flying high into the air as the ultimate beatdown begins. Monster is terrified, realizing this new summon possesses magic far stronger than the previous healer, while our main character flashes a smug grin, knowing he just pulled an absolute cheat code, as a colossal flaming club descends from the heavens to deliver a devastating strike, revealing that Hercules is a single-use summon with unparalleled world-ending destructive power, which gets our boy incredibly hyped as he watches the fiery spectacle unfold, proving that these ultra-rare legends completely break the scaling of normal combatants, prompting the kid to scream in pure excitement while the flames engulf his body. Hercules unleashes his ultimate flaming strike, raining down a massive pillar of fire onto the target, cracking the monster's heavy armor instantly under the sheer weight of the legendary blow, vaporizing the beast in a blinding explosion that completely shakes the entire forest. Standing proudly behind his summoner, the mighty Greek hero looks absolutely magnificent in victory, allowing our boy to catch his breath and confidently declare their hard-fought win, as a glowing blue system notification confirms his very first successful battle. This system details the legendary lore of Hercules, the slayer of mythical beasts, noting that the foolish demon had absolutely no idea who he was dealing with, leaving the defeated monster to slowly dissolve into particles while cursing the human's power. Our main character strikes a hilariously smug pose on top of a rock, basking in the absolute awe of the onlookers who witnessed this insane display, before he casually steps on the shattered remains of the demon's armor to celebrate, while he and his companion jump for joy over the incredible power of Hercules. Having used his single-use ultimate skill, the mighty Hercules bids them farewell and returns to the server, but their celebration is cut short when they realize their item box and magic stones are completely full, which sends our boy into tears of joy because he can finally pay off his heavy gaming debts. Soon after, they arrive in the bustling Okashi area, a major terminal station heading toward North Kanto, where the streets are filled with survivors trying to rebuild their lives after the chaotic demonic invasion, and our boy happily counts his massive earnings from selling off all the loot they just gathered, while proudly showing off the 2 extra magic stones he kept in his pocket for future summons. Clutching her share of the cash, the companion wonders if this is enough to return to her homeland, prompting our main character to ask if she really wants to go back to the kingdom of Gunma, warning her that the dangerous Saitama area on the way there is absolutely crawling with hostile demons, luckily pointing out a safe railway line running directly from Ikebukuro straight to Takasaki, which instantly relieves the worried girl as she marvels at how incredibly convenient this modern transit is, though he notes the ticket is pricey, directing her to the station platform inside the massive tower. Looking up, they see the colossal skyscraper towering over the surrounding slums like a beacon of hope. Overwhelmed with gratitude, the emotional girl tearfully thanks Kamuri for saving her life and helping her out, only for our boy to casually wave goodbye and prepare to split up right then and there, sending her into a complete panic as she desperately grabs him for not escorting her home, as he stubbornly complains that Gunma has too many mountains, and he wants to see the sea instead, until the system brutally reminds him that skills given to otherworldly natives can never be retrieved again, leaving him completely stuck with her as she offers a brand new deal to secure his protection. Jelly desperately offers him a lifetime of unlimited gacha rewards to secure his protection, which completely blows our boy's mind as he envisions endless legendary pulls. So he asks if she really wants to reunite with her family in Gunma, explaining that he also lost his own family during the initial demonic invasion, prompting the emotional princess to look down in deep, quiet sympathy as she tearfully apologizes for bringing up such a painful memory. This sudden display of vulnerable beauty makes our main character's heart skip a beat, forcing him to blushingly declare that protecting a princess is his ultimate duty, before they happily run off to buy train tickets with their magic stones. But Jelly suddenly gets a strange feeling that she forgot someone incredibly important, though she quickly forgets it when they arrive at the platform feeling hungry, eagerly showing off her very first delicious station bento box next to him. While happily munching on his food, our boy asks how she usually ate, only for her to casually admit she always relied on her left-behind companion. But their peaceful meal is abruptly interrupted by a flashing red danger warning, as loud sirens echo through the station to announce an incoming demon raid, leaving our shocked hero staring at his phone in disbelief mid-bite, while a massive, terrifying insect monster suddenly bursts onto the scene. Jelly is absolutely furious about her interrupted lunch as they identify the beast, which aggressively crawls onto the railway tracks to block their path home. This massive insect demon aggressively crawls onto the railway tracks, blocking their only way out, slamming its giant claws down to shatter the concrete platform in a terrifying display of power, forcing the local station guards to desperately charge forward to contain the threat at all costs. But the beast easily sweeps them aside, sending the poor defenders flying with a single strike, before it locks its glowing eyes onto our running duo and begins chasing them down, making Jelly realize that she is actually the target due to her rare spirit summon ability, as the angry insect begins charging a massive beam of energy from its forehead horn, unleashing a devastating blast of pure magical power directly toward our terrified main character, who can only watch in absolute horror as the entire station ceiling begins to collapse, burying the entire platform under a massive shower of falling debris and fiery explosions. Our boy is completely stunned by the sheer scale of the sudden destruction around them, as a colossal steel girder falls from the sky to crush them both, prompting him to desperately grab the princess as they brace for the absolute worst, while the entire skyscraper above them collapses in a spectacular, world-ending cloud of dust. But Jelly's elegant barrier successfully deploys just in time to shield them from the debris, leaving our boy relieved until he realizes his precious backpack full of loot is completely gone. Though the smug monster mocks them, thanking the weak human for keeping its target alive, which absolutely infuriates our main character as he vows to destroy anyone interrupting their journey, luckily revealing that he kept his spare magic stones safe inside his pocket for emergencies, immediately initiating a brand new high-tier summon to wipe this annoying bug off the map. This terrifying insect demon and its minions close in, ready to obliterate our heroes. But the beast suddenly pauses in confusion as a massive magic circle begins to form, though our boy instantly panics when he realizes he just pulled a bottom-tier R rank unit, which the system brutally confirms by showing a depressing 66% drop rate for rares. As a smug, laughing warrior emerges from the light with absolute confidence, introducing himself as Ma Shuo, the newly implemented character ready to serve his lord, whose stat card reveals his legendary unique skill is literally just climbing mountains, leaving our main character completely speechless and screaming in pure frustration at this useless pull, while the angry insect demon unleashes a massive blast of energy directly at them, putting immense pressure on Jelly as her elegant barrier begins to crack under the strain, until the shield completely shatters, sending them flying back in a massive explosion. Seeing their desperate situation, the smug new summon confidently tells them to leave it to him, instantly grabbing both of them to activate his legendary, highly situational climbing skill, which somehow makes the entire trio vanish into thin air right before the monster's eyes, teleporting them safely inside the sleek lobby of the massive station tower. Our boy is absolutely thrilled by this sudden escape, praising Ma Shuo for his incredible utility, as he and the princess look out the window to celebrate their survival, only to realize they are on the top floor while the giant bug climbs up after them, prompting our furious hero to shake the useless summon, who admits his skill only goes up, leaving Jelly staring in absolute horror as she realizes they are completely trapped. Our boy desperately begs Ma Shuo to use a descent skill to get them down from the tower, but the useless summon casually reveals that his only actual ability is climbing up, explaining that this bizarre limitation is actually due to a deeply tragic historical past. Apparently, his master Zhuge strictly ordered him not to camp on the mountains, but he ignored the advice, suffered a massive defeat, and was promptly executed for his blunder. Realizing this guy is a total joke, our main character sweats in absolute disbelief, prompting him to quickly use his very last magic stone to dismiss the useless warrior, who dramatically gets sucked back into the void while crying about being executed again. Turning back to Jelly, our boy commands her to instantly destroy the elevator machinery, which she immediately prepares to do by channeling a massive surge of blue magic, unleashing her elegant magic bullet skill directly down the shaft to break the cables, though the resulting blast sends painful stray sparks flying right into our hero. Luckily, the spell successfully melts the mechanisms and completely halts their rapid ascent, bringing the elevator to a grinding halt right at the 50th floor. Our boy celebrates their temporary safety, thinking they finally bought themselves some time, only to hear a terrifying scratching sound coming from the glass window behind them, revealing the massive insect demon scaling the outside of the skyscraper like a nightmare, sending both of our heroes into a complete panic over this insanely unfair cheat, as the monstrous beast aggressively slams its giant claw right through the glass, shattering their only defense and forcing them into a desperate corner with nowhere left to run. This massive insect demon shatters the glass, lunging directly at our terrified heroes, sending them both scrambling backward as they desperately try to find a way to survive, prompting the panicked princess to scream at him to pull another legendary unit from his pocket, only for our boy to realize in absolute horror that there is a massive hole in his pants, which was accidentally scorched by the stray sparks of Jelly's elevator-destroying magic bullet earlier. But the princess suddenly notices one of their dropped magic stones lying on the floor, unfortunately leaving it completely out of reach right beneath the giant monster's terrifying legs, before the beast's glowing eyes lock onto her and it instantly lashes out with its tentacles, snatching the screaming girl right out of the air before our hero can even react, wrapping her up tightly as it boasts about delivering her rare summoning skill to its master, threatening to pierce her brain with a sharp needle to extract the power directly, forcing our boy to desperately yell that her skill already belongs to him now, which makes the confused insect pause to mock the sheer impossibility of his claim, while the captured princess looks down in shame, remembering her royal pride and status, recalling how harshly she had treated him by calling him a mere passing native, and demanding that a lowly commoner like him should never even speak her name. Though our main character is still completely determined to secure his dream of unlimited gacha spins, a sudden shift in his gaze reveals a much deeper resolve taking over, because more than any legendary rewards or game mechanics he could ever obtain, he simply refuses to abandon his companion after seeing her genuine happy smile. Our boy charges forward, screaming about the sacred bond of sharing a station bento box together, which deeply touches the crying princess as she tearfully calls out his name in gratitude, even though he knows he is just a common native compared to her royal status. But that simple meal was more than enough to make him risk his entire life. prompting the emotional princess to scream his name again as he sprints toward the danger, suddenly pointing to the sky and shouting that the defense force's kamikaze drones have arrived, completely distracting the giant insect demon as it looks up in sheer confusion, giving Kamuri the perfect opening to slide right under its massive legs like a pro, successfully snatching the dropped magic stone off the floor in a clean, heroic sweep, leaving the bamboozled monster to realize it just got completely played by a mere human, who proudly holds up the glowing blue stone and declares it is time to break it, instantly crushing the magical crystal in his fist to unleash its raw, untapped power, as a massive glowing pink magic circle begins to manifest directly above his head, releasing an absurd amount of magical energy that sends shockwaves throughout the entire room. While the bound princess panics, dreading the return of that annoying, useless warrior, but Kamori confidently explains that the drop rate for that specific unit is currently 0, because they are currently pulling from a beginner trap table with incredibly high rates, praying for a high-tier attack unit as the summoning circle flashes with brilliant light, sending a blinding blue aura erupting from his hand to signal an ultra-rare pull, revealing a legendary shadow-shrouded warrior ready to completely dominate the battlefield and save the day. This legendary UR rank warrior emerges from the brilliant light, introducing himself as King Arthur, which instantly makes the captured princess swoon over how incredibly elegant and handsome he is, prompting our boy to proudly introduce him as the ultimate face of the entire game, explaining that he was the greatest Knight King of Britain who led the Knights of the Round Table, achieving countless legendary feats that made him an absolute myth among myths, though his glorious kingdom eventually fell to ruin due to tragic internal strife, forcing him to depart for the fairy realm until his promised return. But right now, the chivalrous knight turns his attention to the captured princess, promising to rescue her immediately and telling her to rest easy under his protection, though the giant insect demon just laughs, calling him a weak native king, as it charges up a massive world-ending blast of energy to obliterate them, leaving our boy in a total panic while the calm knight assures him everything is fine, instantly preparing to unleash his legendary hidden skill to turn the tides, activating Excalibur's sheath to summon a massive, glowing magical barrier around them, which completely nullifies the monster's devastating attack and leaves our main character absolutely speechless, until the system reveals his only weakness is actually his terrifying Yandere sister. But pushing that weird detail aside, our duo charges forward to save the princess, prompting the furious insect demon to lash out with its giant glowing tentacles, which our boy easily slices to pieces with a series of incredibly fast sword strikes, clearing the path for King Arthur to draw his legendary blade and finish this fight once and for all. King Arthur charges forward, slicing through the giant insect's defenses to reach the captured princess, catching her in a smooth bridal carry while our boy celebrates their successful rescue, who immediately prepares to unleash Arthur's ultimate unique skill to finish the fight, leaving the terrified insect demon to panic as it realizes it stands absolutely no chance, as our hero swings the legendary blade with absolute fury to protect his companion, unleashing the legendary Excalibur in a massive blinding beam of pure magical energy, which completely vaporizes the giant insect demon in a single devastating strike that shakes the tower, blowing off the entire top half of the massive skyscraper in a spectacular explosion, prompting the remaining enemy minions to scream in terror and order a full retreat, allowing our victorious heroes to celebrate their hard-fought win amidst the smoking ruins, though our boy instantly panics when he realizes the stingy boss dropped absolutely zero loot, forcing him to suggest digging through the massive piles of rubble to find his backpack. But Arthur politely explains that using his sword to clear the debris would vaporize everything, meaning his precious magic stones are officially lost forever under the sealed, collapsed ruins. Sometime later, the group arrives at the temporary station just as the steam train prepares to depart, leaving our broke protagonist crying tears of pure despair over his completely empty pockets. Though Jelly cheerfully points out that storing Arthur in his phone saved them a ticket fare, which doesn't help his hunger as he desperately tries to offer her cheap cricket crackers, prompting the princess to ask if his device can still connect to the servers in Saitama, as our boy confidently confirms thanks to the Regional Defense Force's special high-tech antennas. Munching on her snack, the princess is completely baffled by the concept of military game antennas, but she quickly cheers up, hoping the handsome knight can escort them all the way to Gunma, which immediately prompts our blushing hero to deny being incredibly jealous of the legendary warrior, though they quickly distract themselves by marveling at the beautiful horizon from their speeding train. Suddenly, a creepy glowing smile manifests in the darkness to mock their foolish escape from Tokyo, catching both of our travelers completely off guard as they spin around in absolute terror, revealing a muscular fish monster who demands they hand over the princess if they want to live, and our boy confidently refuses, calling upon King Arthur to step up and handle the threat. Unfortunately, the knight casually reveals his ultimate skill is currently on a massive 24-hour cooldown, leaving our crying protagonist to desperately beg for forgiveness while Arthur remains completely useless, forcing him to quickly consider deleting the knight to pull a brand new gacha unit instead, only for the system to brutally remind him that he needs magic stones to roll, prompting both heroes to fall into a screaming panic because they are completely out of resources, allowing the massive fish demon to bulk up and prepare to execute them right there. Meanwhile, high above the tracks, a mysterious hooded sniper locks onto our hero from afar. With a cold glare, the assassin focuses directly on the screaming boy inside the train car, charging up a devastating magic bullet skill through the barrel of a high-tech rifle, unleashing a massive, fiery explosion that tears right through the front of the speeding train, sending the derailed locomotive sliding violently along the tracks in a cloud of thick smoke. As another powerful magical blast erupts to completely seal their chaotic and dangerous fate, our boy carries the princess out of the smoke, thanking her elegant magical barrier for saving their lives. But he quickly realizes the massive explosion actually took out the terrifying fish monster instead, leaving nothing but a smoking pair of legs behind in the middle of the ruined tracks. As Kamuri happily runs over to collect the dropped magic stone, another sudden blast cuts him off, sending our hero flying through the air in a panic as the ground erupts behind him, forcing the duo to scramble for their lives while a barrage of magical projectiles rains down, until a mysterious hooded assassin descends from the sky, cursing them for constantly running away, landing gracefully on the tracks before coldly declaring they are here to assassinate Kamuri, which leaves our completely baffled protagonist demanding to know who this random attacker even is, only for the assassin to casually explain that their previous shot was actually meant for him, prompting our boy to yell that hitting the fish demon instead was just incredibly bad aim, though the stubborn sniper ignores him, firing another blast while complaining about running out of mana, while Kamuri easily dodges the incoming attacks, repeatedly mocking the assassin's terrible accuracy, before the frustrated shooter creeps right up to his face to try a point-blank shot, instantly blasting a red explosive barrel right next to them in a desperate attempt to hit, triggering a massive fiery explosion that engulfs both of them in a blinding flash of light, which blows off the assassin's hood to reveal a surprisingly cute, white-haired little girl, leaving Kamuri completely shocked while the princess happily recognizes her personal maid, Eboshi, who immediately hugs her lady while fiercely promising to execute the native who kidnapped her, forcing our annoyed hero to aggressively ruffle her head while yelling that he is actually her knight. Kamuri asks the princess why she completely forgot about her maid before starting this journey, but she casually blames her bad memory on the constant monster attacks interrupting her thoughts, until a fresh wave of angry Majin suddenly spots them and forces another frantic run, prompting the loyal maid to quickly guide the crying princess toward a safe escape route. They eventually catch their breath outside an abandoned shopping mall in the ruined Kawaguchi area, where our boy immediately gears up with a plunger like a classic zombie movie survivor, though the princess quickly complains that all the food inside is expired and she is starving, while the grumpy maid demands a meal to replenish her completely drained magic reserves. Spotting a seemingly innocent pigeon nearby, Kamuri gets excited about roasting it for dinner, slowly sneaking up on the bird while desperately trying to hide his intense hunger, only for the creature to reveal its true, terrifying form as a disguised regional monster, which instantly clamps its giant star-shaped mouth directly onto our hero's screaming face. This princess panics in horror as the maid explains this creature is a mutated local hybrid, before leaping into the air to save him from the annoying, face-hugging beast, unleashing a devastating point-blank sniper shot that completely vaporizes the monster in a flash, leaving our charred protagonist absolutely horrified that they are actually going to eat a Majin. Eboshi calmly explains that non-talking monsters are perfectly edible and packed with rich magical energy, but the princess's stomach growls again to remind them they still need real food, prompting the maid to proudly present a rare box of limited edition super curry she found, which leaves the princess completely dumbfounded that her maid risked her life just for instant food. Introducing herself as Eboshi, the loyal maid who has served the princess's family for generations, she explains how her lady got trapped during an infiltration and couldn't return home, leaving them constantly hunted by monsters who desperately want to steal her spirit summoning power. But our boy happily reveals he can bypass that restriction using his gaming server connection, though the skeptical maid quickly points out that spirit summoning only works in specific sacred lands, prompting him to explain that his system actually summons legendary historical heroes from his game, until a pair of robotic monster scouts suddenly catch the delicious scent of their curry, instantly alerting the entire enemy squad and ruining their peaceful lunch break in a heartbeat, forcing our hero to grab a baseball bat and prepare to hold off the horde, only for the useless maid to admit she can only hit targets at point-blank range, which triggers another frantic retreat as the massive army of monsters closes in on them, while our broke protagonist desperately wishes he had just one magic stone to summon help, as Eboshi casually pulls out a glowing blue crystal she kept saved as emergency money, and the excited princess immediately declares that it is officially time for a clutch gacha roll, allowing our hyped hero to prepare his summoning ritual with absolute focus and determination, shattering the precious magic stone with a powerful punch to activate his legendary system skill, unleashing a massive glowing purple magic circle that completely stuns the oncoming monster horde, where the terrifying silhouette of Lu Bu, the strongest warrior of the Three Kingdoms, emerges, making the clueless princess celebrate their victory before the battle has even officially started, before the legendary warrior prepares to unleash his overwhelming power to wipe out the enemy. Instead of the legendary Lu Bu, our boy accidentally summons the useless mountaineer Masu again, which immediately triggers Kamuri's rage as he yells at the weak unit for being incredibly misleading, especially when the smug warrior proudly boasts about a stat increase that is basically completely unnoticeable, leaving the nearby robotic monster scouts to laugh at his pathetic power level and prepare to strike, prompting the loyal maid to step up and unleash a massive magical blast from her sniper rifle, which completely misses the targets but triggers a massive explosion that blocks the escalator behind them, allowing the surviving mechanical demons to recover and order the immediate execution of the entire group, while Masu cheerfully suggests climbing to the top floor despite Kamuri's fear of getting trapped. High above, the princess desperately screams for help as her magical barrier begins to crack under pressure, forcing our boy to quickly analyze their options while realizing the stairs are completely blocked, meaning the elevator is also totally out of commission due to the lack of electricity, leaving the ruined central escalator as their absolute last hope of escaping the oncoming horde, which prompts Kamuri to ask the princess if her maid can handle a high-speed ninja escape, before he finally swallows his pride and orders Masu to activate his unique mountaineering skill, just as the enemy forces shatter the protective barrier to corner our defenseless heroes, allowing the smug mountaineer to strike a dramatic pose and ask why humans climb mountains, unleashing a blinding flash of magical energy as he declares they climb because the mountain exists, completely baffling the robotic monsters as the entire group vanishes into thin air in an instant, only to crash violently onto the 5th floor in a chaotic, painful heap of limbs. Though Kamuri still takes the time to mock the slowpoke demons from their safe new vantage point. Safe on the 5th floor, the princess and Masu start obnoxiously mocking the enemies below, which absolutely infuriates the robotics monster scouts as they charge up the escalator in a rage, only for the lead machine to suddenly freeze at the top of the platform, because the loyal maid is already waiting there with her weapon pointed right at its chest, calmly declaring that even her terrible aim cannot miss from a point-blank, zero-distance range, unleashing a devastating magical blast that sends the entire mechanical squad flying backward in pieces, leaving the surviving robots to realize too late that they fell for a classic tactical bait-and-switch, forcing their remaining forces to call for a hasty retreat down the ruined escalators. Our boy happily celebrates their victory, claiming shopping malls are officially the best spots for survival battles. But his excitement quickly dies when Masu reveals that not a single magic stone dropped, especially since both the princess and her maid are completely out of mana and starving, until a pair of massive scaly fish legs suddenly steps out of the shadows nearby, revealing that the terrifying fish demon has somehow returned to claim the princess for himself, which leaves our completely dumbfounded protagonist screaming in absolute horror because he thought the beast was dead. But the smug monster proudly explains that his unique passive skill allows him to regenerate from nothing, prompting both of our exhausted travelers to fall into a deep, screaming panic over their terrible luck, as the muscular demon leaps high into the air to crush them once and for all, landing with a heavy ground-shaking thud right in front of our defenseless heroes, before he mockingly commends the boy for putting up such a decent fight against his army, and coldly demands they hand over the princess now that their journey has officially reached its end. Kamuri refuses to give up on his dream of unlimited gacha, gripping his bat tightly, and charges directly at the massive fish demon who mockingly calls his weapon a mere toy. But our clever protagonist just smirks because this reckless charge was actually a distraction, allowing the loyal maid to leap onto his back and charge up a devastating magical blast, focusing all of her remaining energy into one final point-blank strike to finish the monster, unleashing a massive purple explosion that completely engulfs the terrifying beast in a blinding flash, which leaves Eboshi completely drained and dizzy while Kamuri carries her away from the smoke, only to realize the demon's muscular legs are still standing firmly on the ruined ground, as strange magical bubbles suddenly begin to boil and foam from the severed neck, instantly regenerating his entire upper body and head to reveal he is completely unharmed, smugly boasting that their ultimate attack only managed to drain a pathetic 2% of his mana, before he unleashes a devastating counterattack that sends our terrified heroes flying through the air, vaporizing poor Masu as his HP hits 0 and forces a server expulsion, prompting the crying princess to quickly deploy her elegant barrier while hoping for mission reward stones, giving our boy a brilliant idea as he desperately pulls out his gaming phone. But the relentless fish demon strikes again, knocking the device right out of his hand, sending their absolute last hope of survival tumbling down into the dark abyss below, leaving them completely defenseless as the massive monster corners them and declares it is over. Kamuri grinds his teeth in absolute frustration, desperately searching for any possible way to escape, while the terrified princess realizes they are officially trapped with absolutely nowhere left to run. This fish demon swings his massive glowing fist down to crush our defenseless heroes. But just as he prepares to deliver the final devastating blow to end their journey, a group of heavily armed soldiers suddenly crashes through the glass ceiling to intervene, shouting that defeating this high-level Majin will finally secure their promotion to S rank, which immediately fills our terrified protagonists with immense relief as they realize they are saved. This arrogant fish demon simply sneers at the newcomers, completely dismissing their human abilities, and lunges forward to crush the stylish blonde leader who is dangling from a rope, only for the calm commander to casually point two gloved fingers directly at his target, activating a powerful gravity skill that instantly drags the massive beast down toward the floor, slamming him into the concrete with a ground-shaking force that shatters the surrounding tiles, leaving the heavy monster completely pinned down and unable to lift his scaly head. This smug commander proudly boasts about his impressive record as an elite A-rank ability user, while his B-rank partner steps up to unleash his own specialized restraining technique, conjuring glowing magical chains that tightly lock the struggling demon flat against the ground, until the slippery beast suddenly sheds his outer skin to reveal a creepy pink form, declaring that he has already analyzed their abilities and will make a tactical retreat, before sprinting away into the shadows while promising to eliminate them all next time. This blonde leader calmly notes that the monster's unique regeneration allowed him to escape, prompting our relieved heroes to happily thank the military squad for saving their lives, only to get slapped with heavy metal handcuffs as they are suddenly placed under arrest. This smug blonde leader immediately confiscates Komuri's phone, claiming it is crucial evidence for their investigation, prompting our shocked protagonist to scream that he and the princess are completely innocent. But the B-rank soldier suddenly twists his arms back to activate a painful binding technique, explaining that his unique skill allows him to freely control his target's hands and feet, leaving our boy to desperately yell that he actually defeated the terrifying monster in Ikebukuro, though the aggressive soldier just calls him a liar and threatens daily torture for answers, while the polite commander promises a comfortable, separate room for the two ladies, forcing our poor protagonist to cry out that they will regret treating him like this, as the mocking soldiers laughingly order their immediate transfer to the base's secure detention cells. Later that night at the military base, the heavy atmosphere of confinement settles over our heroes. Komuri calls out to check on the princess from his dark, gloomy prison cell, while venting his absolute frustration about the arrogant pay-to-win players who interrogated him. But the sweet princess gently cuts in to thank him for protecting her loyal maid, which completely catches our young hero off guard as he stares back in silence, prompting him to admit that dragging her into this mess was entirely his own fault, until the blushing princess suddenly looks down and nervously starts to ask a personal question, wondering if she can officially appoint him as her personal knight once they reach Gunma, before she frantically waves her hands to clarify she does not mean anything romantic, only for our dense protagonist to casually reply that they are already great friends, leaving the flustered princess with a racing heart as she realizes her feelings are growing. Komuri is panicking because his precious gacha login streak is about to break at midnight, and he starts shaking violently from severe withdrawal symptoms inside his dark cell. But the loyal maid suddenly appears upside down to hand him his confiscated phone, saving his daily streak while he realizes they still do not have any mission stones, prompting Eboshi to proudly reveal a massive bag of magic stones she swiped from the guards, which completely shocks the princess even though Komuri explains they need them to fight the Majin, leaving our boy to confidently declare his ultimate plan to crush both of their enemies. Meanwhile, early the next morning, military trucks speed away from the secure base, as the soldiers receive an urgent radio report that their 3 prisoners have successfully escaped, infuriating the aggressive guard who realizes the sneaky group also stole their precious magic stones, until a massive, terrifying silhouette suddenly charges toward their convoy in the morning light, revealing the muscular fish demon Latimeria sprinting directly at them with a creepy grin, forcing the military squad to immediately prioritize exterminating this high-level threat first, as the heavily armed soldiers unleash a relentless barrage of gunfire at the oncoming beast, though the arrogant monster easily shrugs off the bullets, calling their human weapons completely useless, prompting the B-rank soldier to step forward and activate his specialized binding technique, which conjures glowing magical chains that tightly lock the massive beast in place, allowing the smug blonde commander to point his finger and activate his powerful gravity skill, slamming the heavy monster flat against the ground with an absolutely devastating, crushing force, leaving the pinned demon to glare in absolute fury at the annoying humans who stopped him. This blonde commander cranks up his gravity skill to an insane 1,000 times normal force, forcing the massive fish demon to writhe in agony as his bloodshot eyes nearly pop out, before a massive explosion rocks the battlefield, leaving the soldiers wondering if they finally finished him. But the slippery beast instantly breaks free and leaps away to regenerate his damaged body, smugly boasting that their combined ultimate attack only drained a pathetic 2% of his mana, which completely terrifies the elite squad as they realize they must keep attacking to survive, though the furious monster simply charges right past them, telling the annoying humans to get lost, leaving the confused soldiers to realize too late that the beast is actually hunting someone else. Deep in the dark alleyways, the terrifying fish demon corners the hooded princess all by herself, evilly declaring that she will not escape his clutches this time before he takes her brain. But he quickly notices our clever protagonist is missing, wondering if she was used as bait, which makes the arriving military squad absolutely disgusted by Komuri's seemingly cruel and heartless tactics. Poor Zeri is actually crying under her hood, furiously cursing our boy for throwing her out, as we flash back to earlier that morning when their getaway jeep sped toward the border, where Komuri warned his companions that the dangerous demon army was heavily guarding the entire area, prompting him to lay out a highly strategic plan to deal with their relentless pursuer, explaining that the greedy fish demon would definitely try to monopolize all the credit for himself, meaning that if the princess acted as a decoy, the monster would blindly chase her alone. Back in the present, the massive explosion detonates right in front of the military squad, while the princess watches from safety, ready to execute the next phase of their wild plan. Eboshi, disguised as the princess, is tasked with luring the terrifying fish demon away, hoping he runs straight into the pursuing military squad so they can wear him down. Even if the beast boasts that their strongest attacks only drain 2% of his mana, which leaves our smirking protagonist to happily cheer them on while planning his next move. Suddenly, Kamuri and the real princess spot a massive demon army blocking their escape route as 3 heavily armored robotic soldiers prepare to crush their speeding getaway vehicle, prompting our desperate hero to immediately start his own battle by breaking his magic stones, unleashing a massive purple summoning circle right from off the passenger seat of the Jeep, only to pull a flashy masked magician who turns out to be a disappointing R rank, leaving the crying princess to complain about this shady hero while her elegant tone slips. Kamuri ignores her panic and orders their vehicle to charge directly at the oncoming enemies, declaring that their wild operation to pull a ultra-rare unit officially begins right now, while the eccentric alchemist proudly boasts about his historical role in the French Revolution, before he dramatically conjures a giant glowing pearl necklace to bind the robotic soldiers, warning the confused enemies that they will surely suffocate under his ultimate magical trap, as he smugly laughs and claims they are dancing in the palm of his hand, until the robots realize the glowing pearls are actually just a completely harmless illusion, exposing this flashy new summon as nothing more than a notorious low-level historical swindler, which instantly infuriates our young protagonist as he realizes the fraud cannot maintain his magic. Kamuri immediately prepares to delete the useless character and roll the gacha once again. Kamuri activates another glowing purple summoning circle, while the military squad keeps the fish demon busy, only to pull the exact same useless historical strategist who proudly announces his 3rd northern expedition, prompting our annoyed protagonist to instantly hit the delete button without a single second thought, believing that continuously hunting small fry will give them enough magic stones to secure a UR, though the terrified princess loudly complains that they are stuck on a massive hopeless losing streak, as she reviews his wild tactical plan to ambush the exhausted demon from behind and steal the credit, which would allow them to deliver a final devastating blow and claim all the glory for themselves. But the next roll immediately summons the same useless strategist embarking on his 4th northern expedition, forcing our sweating hero to delete him again, while admitting his perfect plan has one major flaw. Determined to break the curse, Kamuri clenches his fist and prepares to roll the gacha once more, watching as a mysterious purple silhouette slowly begins to materialize inside the bright summoning light, as the exact same annoying strategist pops out announcing his 5th northern expedition instead, starting a ridiculous loop where they endlessly fail the gacha and pull the same garbage unit, while the crying princess watches in absolute despair as he repeatedly deletes the useless historical fraud, driving our poor protagonist to grab his head and scream in pure gacha-induced mental agony, with their speeding getaway jeep being relentlessly pursued by a massive, terrifying horde of robotic soldiers. Shaking him violently, the weeping princess screams that they should have just fought the demon directly, especially since they are running out of magic stones and have accidentally driven straight into the enemy, crashing their vehicle right back onto the main battlefield where the military squad is fighting the demon, leaving the shocked blonde commander to realize our chaotic heroes just dragged the entire demon army here. Latimeria is furious that his robotic troops didn't wait, but orders them to attack anyway, while the terrified princess screams that their getaway vehicle has officially run out of abasas, leaving our desperate protagonist to realize they will be completely wiped out without a lucky pull. As Eboshi watches from above, realizing they have absolutely no way to escape the oncoming horde, she immediately fires her weapon to cover them, yelling at Kamuri to hurry up and roll, though the massive explosion ends up blasting our poor heroes as well, prompting loud complaints, pinning both of them face down on the dirt, utterly defeated by their terrible gacha luck. Desperate for a miracle, Kamuri frantically searches his system screen for any possible way out, until his eyes suddenly widen in absolute shock at a brand new notification on his screen, revealing a limited-time Gorilla Gacha event with a massive 3x drop rate for fighter classes, which he excitedly explains to the highly skeptical princess as he prepares his final magic stone. Praying for an ultra-rare unit, our boy confidently activates the summon with everything on the line, triggering a massive blinding pillar of golden lightning that completely rocks the entire battlefield, as a wild, booming laugh echoes from the center of the intense electrical storm, introducing a powerful, red-haired warrior who is absolutely thrilled to finally enter the real world. This system confirms he just pulled a legendary UR rank fighter named Raijin Thor, completely stunning the military commander who recognizes the mythical Norse god standing before them, while even the arrogant fish demon freezes in absolute terror at this insane power level, prompting our smirking protagonist to confidently order his new ultimate summon to crush their enemies, with Raijin Thor raising his weapon to unleash a devastating, electrifying strike upon the battlefield. This system explains that in this game, power strictly follows the hierarchy of god, demigod, and human, with Raijin Thor reigning as the strongest Norse war god who easily slaughtered countless legendary giants, making him an absolutely broken top-tier unit capable of completely rewriting the rules of combat, which leaves our ecstatic protagonist to confidently order his new god to crush the terrifying fish demon. Thor immediately roars and unleashes a massive surge of golden electricity that shakes the entire battlefield, as Kamuri realizes that these legendary Norse gods are actually insanely battle-hungry and completely uncontrollable, especially since Thor constantly radiates dangerous high-voltage lightning while carrying the terrified chibi princess on his shoulder, though this insane power comes with the hilarious drawback of constantly dealing self-inflicted shock damage. Channeling this overwhelming electrical energy, our boy prepares to summon a massive spectral hammer of his own, aiming to completely obliterate any giant or demon threat with a single devastating overhead swing. But the arrogant fish demon simply scoffs at them, calling these native gods nothing but barbaric fools, boasting that the massive beast possesses far superior intellect compared to a brainless, muscle-headed summon. Our clever protagonist just smirks right back, telling the overconfident monster that his arrogance will be his downfall, thanking the giant fish demon for making himself such an incredibly easy, massive target to hit, before Thor unleashes his signature Mjolnir's strike, slamming a colossal pillar of lightning directly onto the beast, since the legendary warrior is a specialized giant killer who thrives against massive, slow-moving opponents. Latimeria writhes in absolute agony as the devastating electrical shock completely paralyzes his massive muscular body, realizing in pure terror that his precious magic power is draining away far too quickly to regenerate. While Kamuri explains that Thor's lightning attacks apply a permanent, continuous damage debuff to their targets, even if the chaotic feedback loop ends up blasting our poor heroes with a massive explosive shockwave. Latimeria struggles against the overwhelming electrical current, unable to break free from the god's grip, realizing in absolute horror that his massive mana pool has already plummeted below half, while our smug protagonist casually explains the mechanics of high-tier cooldowns and mana consumption, leaving the confused fish demon to wonder what kind of insane strategy they are pulling, before Kamuri reveals that all of Thor's previous strikes were actually just basic attacks. This shocking revelation terrifies the giant beast as he senses an absurdly destructive power charging up, though the battle-crazy war god proudly declares that his summoner's safety is not his concern, screaming with absolute joy while our poor protagonist gets violently shocked on his shoulder, as Kamuri grits his teeth to activate the legendary god's ultimate unique skill. A colossal pillar of golden lightning called Mjolnir's shock completely obliterates the entire battlefield, vaporizing the massive fish demon's body in a blinding flash of pure electrical energy, with nothing left but a single severed hand plopping onto the dusty ground, which allows our greedy hero to happily scoop up a massive pile of rare magic stones. Meanwhile, the blonde commander realizes too late that they were completely used as decoys, especially since Kamuri is already evilly celebrating his massive haul of loot in the background, until a sudden wave of intense pain makes our smug protagonist freeze in terror, realizing that the continuous shock damage from Thor is actually about to kill him. This panicked princess quickly forces the sulking war god back into his card box, saving our boy's life just in time to hear he has been promoted to S rank, prompting the greedy kid to instantly wonder what kind of legendary rewards he will get. Kamuri casually dismisses the princess as a cringy cosplayer, handing her some magic stones to shut her up, which leaves the crying royal desperately hiding her identity while her tiny companion suggests murdering our protagonist, before the blonde commander steps up to angrily accuse Kamuri of using them all as bait, pointing out that the chaotic kid has also piled up serious charges of desertion and theft. Our smug protagonist simply laughs it off, demanding some proper respect now that he is officially S rank, which completely infuriates the hot-headed soldier who immediately challenges him to a duel for the stones, prompting Kamuri to greedily accept the challenge on the condition that he wins all their loot, even though the stressed commander tries to shut down the unsanctioned fight after their near-death experience. Ignoring his boss, the angry soldier pulls out the severed demon hand to use as a weapon, instantly making our money-hungry hero drool over how much that rare monster part will fetch on the black market, as the soldier fuses the creepy demon limb onto his own arm to unleash his control-type skills. While the panicked commander warns him that playing with dead demon parts is an incredibly stupid idea, this reckless soldier leaps into the air for a strike while Kamuri casually stares at his phone, unleashing a binding spell to lock our protagonist in place before he can summon any help, which leaves our trapped hero to loudly complain about this blatant cheating as his phone drops away, allowing the overconfident soldier to close in for what he believes will be the final blow. Suddenly, the fused demon arm reacts violently, bursting with a massive surge of unstable magical energy, as the severed limb absorbs the nearby magic stones and begins to rapidly mutate back to life, forcing the horrified commander to realize the monster is actively feeding on the soldier's own mana, leaving the sweating fighter completely powerless as the revived demon arm refuses to obey his commands. This severed demon arm violently mutates, absorbing the soldier's mana and reviving the terrifying fish demon, who mocks the humans for their foolish infighting as he fully regenerates his massive body, leaving our shocked protagonist and the terrified princess to stare in absolute disbelief at this disaster, while the weeping soldier begs his commander for forgiveness, offering to sacrifice himself to save his squad. Clutching Kamuri's arm, the crying princess desperately begs our greedy hero to save the foolish man, prompting a heavy sigh from our annoyed protagonist who reluctantly agrees to bail them out again, as the princess quickly deploys her elegant barrier to buy them some precious time to prepare. Though Kamuri suddenly realizes that Thor's legendary lightning skill is still stuck on a massive cooldown, with his system screen revealing a brutal 8-hour wait before he can use the god's power again, forcing him to instantly delete the legendary warrior to recycle his stones for another quick summon. Outside, the terrifying fish demon relentlessly pounds on the princess's fragile barrier, cracking it with ease, while our sweating hero frantically prepares to roll the guaranteed fighter gacha with everything on the line, only for his eyes to widen in absolute horror at a sudden game-breaking system notification, revealing that the entire server has crashed and is currently undergoing emergency maintenance. Our poor protagonist screams in pure gacha-induced agony as his ultimate escape plan is completely ruined, realizing he is locked out of his summoning system right when they need a miracle most, while the desperate military commander screams at Komuri to hurry up and use his overpowered skills, leaving our sweating hero to stare at a countdown showing maintenance will last another 10 minutes. He quickly tells the shocked soldiers that they just need to hold off the demon for 10 minutes, prompting the brave commander to rally his squad and form a defensive shield wall to protect him. Latimeria sneers at the defensive lineup, determined to crush them before that annoying thunder god returns, as he unleashes a massive earth-shattering punch directly against the soldier's desperate shield wall, forcing the terrified princess to push her elegant barrier to its absolute maximum limit, which barely manages to keep the entire squad safe from the demon's overwhelming physical strength. Though the arrogant fish monster just laughs it off, calling her magic nothing but child's play, before delivering another brutal strike that leaves the crying royal completely unable to hold on, until Latimeria suddenly spots a Boshi hovering high in the sky directly above the chaotic battlefield, preparing to unleash a massive magical blast while the chibi princess screams in absolute panic, realizing that a friendly fire explosion will instantly shatter their fragile defense and kill them all, while the giant fish demon lands another devastating blow that cracks the barrier even further. Desperate for a miracle, the sweating commander asks for an update only to hear there are 5 minutes left. But Komuri's eyes suddenly widen as a familiar notification sound chimes from his system screen, revealing that the emergency maintenance has actually finished 5 minutes earlier than expected, leaving our ecstatic protagonist to realize that right after a server update is the perfect time to roll, especially since the maintenance apology bonus stacks with the current rate up to give him a massive boost, which means his chances of pulling a legendary fighter are now a whopping 9 times higher, prompting our confident boy to activate his summon as a massive pillar of golden light erupts, while the starry-eyed princess watches in absolute awe at the beautiful rainbow spin animation, completely shocking the giant fish demon who senses an absurdly powerful presence returning to the battlefield, as the legendary Raijin Thor proudly emerges from the lightning, ready to slaughter the monster once again. Our ecstatic protagonist stares at the screen, realizing that duplicate summons give massive stat boosts, as he confidently orders his newly buffed Thunder God to charge straight into battle, leaving the terrified fish demon desperately trying to retreat with his depleted magic reserves. But the nearby soldiers quickly bind the monster with heavy glowing chains, shouting for our hero to unleash his ultimate attack while they hold the beast down, prompting Komuri to happily command his god to deliver the final strike, which unleashes a colossal, earth-shattering pillar of lightning called Mjolnir's Thunder Strike, completely vaporizing the giant fish demon in a blinding flash of pure electrical energy. Both Komuri and Thor laugh maniacally at the absolute overkill of this high-cost summon, while the exhausted soldiers watch in utter disbelief at the god's terrifying power, though our greedy protagonist is disappointed to find only tiny stone fragments left behind, realizing that stacking duplicate units is the key to unlocking truly game-breaking power, instantly triggering his toxic gacha addiction as he dreams of stacking even more Thors, deciding to quickly clear out his inventory to make room for more rolls, even though his loyal advisor Masu mistakenly thinks his master is doing this for him, only to get instantly deleted by our ruthless hero without a single second thought. Just as Komuri eagerly taps his screen to start rolling the next summon, a sudden emergency maintenance notification pops up to reveal the server is down, forcing our devastated protagonist to cry in absolute despair over his lost Thunder God. Days pass by as the chaotic battle finally ends and train service is restored. Komuri is absolutely thrilled to continue their journey, eagerly waiting for the next train stop, since he happily rejected a military jeep in favor of traveling like a true celebrity, pointing out that trains are much safer and offer the absolute best bento boxes, which the princess completely agrees with as she happily stuffs her face with delicious food, prompting our smug protagonist to officially invite Eboshi to join their permanent traveling party, leaving the quiet ninja to silently reflect on her duty to protect the royal princess, realizing she hasn't seen her beloved master smile so brightly since the terrible calamity. Meanwhile, Komuri celebrates his successful journey despite the game server being down all day, grabbing Eboshi's hands with an incredibly excited expression to explain her vital role, which turns out to be serving as a highly convenient decoy for his battles, planning to use her as bait while the princess acts as his personal shield. Though the girls realize his absolute vulnerability during gacha rolls makes these rolls necessary, suddenly a loud voice calls out Komuri's full name from across the busy platform, revealing a beautiful blue-haired military commander who introduces herself with a formal salute, looking incredibly nervous as she asks our protagonist if they can discuss a private matter, instantly triggering Komuri's wild delusions of popularity while his companions watch with deep suspicion, only for the commander to tearfully present a massive bill for the train's destruction, completely vaporizing our greedy hero's entire fortune and leaving him with a single stone, forcing him to hilariously blame Eboshi for the damage since they are a party, while the exhausted military commander can only watch their chaotic bickering in absolute disbelief. Aurelia, a pink-haired otherworlder from the task force, sighs in relief after a crazy close call, laughing with Mizuki about how a surprise guerrilla gacha event completely broke the game's servers, while they wonder if Komuri's group can survive the terrifying demon currently lurking in Urawa. especially since this legendary monster is actually one of the strongest entities in existence. Back at a dark castle, a sinister presence looms over the land under a crimson moon. Meanwhile, a massive rainstorm floods the tracks and forces Kamuri's train to make an emergency stop, leaving our poor protagonist completely devastated to learn they are stuck here for a month, though the cheerful princess is just excited to explore the town and find some local food, leading them into Urawa, a rundown town famous for producing rare anti-demon weapon materials. Known as Ronin Town, the streets are currently divided by two heavily armed rival factions, with the hot-headed Captain Torinosuke rallying his military squad to hunt down the local demon, while the laid-back Captain Shigoro argues that they should just leave the peaceful monster alone, prompting Mizuki to step in with her megaphone to announce their official investigation mission. She nervously begs them to get along while explaining they are searching for a hidden mineral vein, which instantly triggers the extreme greed of both captains as they hear about the treasure, causing Torinosuke to immediately order his men to crush their rivals and claim the vein. As Shigoro rallies his own warriors to prevent the military from hoarding all the wealth, a chaotic street brawl erupts instantly, completely ignoring Mizuki's desperate warnings about the awakening demon, until a familiar voice suddenly calls out to the stressed commander from across the street, revealing Kamuri and his companions waving happily, ready to drag her into their next wild adventure. Mizuki casually mentions that she arrived safely by using the still-operating military railway, sending our poor protagonist into a spiral of absolute despair over his wasted fortune, while the princess quickly deploys her barrier to protect them from the chaotic street brawl, prompting the desperate commander to beg Kamuri to use his final magic stone to stop the fight, which triggers a massive pillar of light as he summons the legendary King Arthur, only for the legendary warrior to emerge looking completely depressed about his stolen queen. But before our hero can even process this bizarre summon, a sneaky red-haired girl appears, delivering a sudden and incredibly painful kick directly to our poor protagonist's backside. Introducing herself as Ginka, a highly aggressive ability user from the rival Torinosuke unit, who loudly declares that this entire town is her personal turf to protect, forcing the crying hero to desperately order his new summon to punish the brat. Arthur suddenly turns around with a terrifyingly dark aura, warning Kamuri to watch his mouth, prompting our sweating protagonist to quickly apologize and beg him to just attack the crowd, as the legendary king raises his glowing sword to lecture everyone about the dangers of infighting, before unleashing a massive sweeping shockwave that instantly blows away the brawling soldiers, giving our boy an absolute thrill over this display of pure, unadulterated physical strength, though he quickly realizes that Ginka has completely vanished using a high-level stealth skill, reappearing right behind him with a cheeky grin to catch him completely off guard, landing another brutal kick that sends our screaming protagonist flying through the air, making him completely helpless against an invisible opponent he cannot even see. Kamuri is absolutely furious, threatening to unleash Excalibur's wide-area attack to turn Ginka into ashes. But a nearby soldier suddenly warns Ginka that their rivals are already heading for the mountains, prompting the cheeky red-haired girl to quickly wave goodbye and vanish into thin air, leaving our sore protagonist to desperately nurse his bruised backside while pretending he let her off, though he quickly faceplants onto the dirt because he spent his very last stone on Arthur, until the grateful commander steps in to offer him a delicious fried rice bento box, instantly reviving our greedy hero who starts celebrating his sudden popularity like a total idiot, confidently bragging to Mizuki that this legendary Urawa Majin won't stand a single chance against him, while a mysterious voice from the shadows warns them to ignore the terrifying Demon King, just as a gorgeous pink-haired military officer gracefully arrives to apologize for being late. Our starstruck protagonist immediately blushes, convinced that a literal angel has descended from the heavens, only for Mizuki to casually drop the devastating bomb that Aurelia is actually a boy, sending Kamuri into a hilarious existential crisis as his heart starts unlocking some very questionable doors, though the pretty noble quickly shifts his attention to the princess's incredibly fancy outfit, asking if she hails from a ridiculously named countryside kingdom to her absolute horror, triggering a massive fit of laughter from Kamuri while the embarrassed royal cries in despair, before Aurelia hands our broke protagonist a massive bag of gold as a reward, which instantly triggers a system notification revealing that his personal preferences have been slightly distorted. Meanwhile, the scene shifts to a massive ominous castle looming over the dark mountains, where the terrifying Urawa Majin sits on his throne, amused by the foolish humans below. A messenger pigeon delivers the terrifying Demon King's orders to capture the royal princess immediately, while the aggressive Ginka sneaks into his dark castle to claim his head instead, launching a surprise knife attack from the shadows to take down the legendary monster, only for the powerful demon lord to effortlessly block her strike without even turning around, leaving the red-haired assassin completely stunned by his terrifyingly fast reaction speed, as he casually grabs her wrist and stares her down with absolute composure, forcing Ginka to desperately ask how he managed to see through her perfect stealth, which he smugly explains is due to his ability to detect sound wave vibrations. He commends her bravery for infiltrating his castle but tells her she should just leave, tossing her aside like a rag doll because he has urgent business to attend to, prompting the proud girl to furiously accuse him of mocking her after his easy victory, until she looks directly into his eyes and feels a sudden wave of pure terror, realizing he will instantly end her life if she dares to take another step. Gritting her teeth in absolute frustration, Ginka can only watch him walk away in silence. shouting a desperate threat that he will regret letting her escape so easily, while the sinister Demon King prepares to hunt down his true target, Princess Zeri, who is currently traveling with Kamuri and completely unaware of the looming danger. Meanwhile, deep inside the Urawa Mountain dungeon, a dark mine candidate site awaits, where a massive roaring robot monster suddenly ambushes the miners out of nowhere, forcing the adorable princess to hilariously don a hard hat and unleash her magic bullet. A massive explosion rocks the entire cavern as the princess's magic bullet completely obliterates the robotic threat. But the dust barely settles before our exhausted party realizes they are still in deep trouble, since the mine is crawling with stray demons and they haven't found any hyralidite, leaving our broke protagonist to desperately wish for some magic stones, while fearing his own awakening preferences, prompting him to order the legendary King Arthur to use Excalibur for some high-powered excavation work, which the depressed warrior reluctantly agrees to do after getting yelled at by his greedy master, unleashing his legendary unique skill with a brilliant flash of blue light to clear the path, as the massive power of Excalibur completely tears through the rocky walls of the cavern, making our overconfident protagonists celebrate their guaranteed fortune before they even see the treasure, only for Chippy to use her long-distance vision and reveal there is absolutely nothing there, causing the lazy princess to complain about manual labor and beg to be a neat, which she proudly admits she survived doing before by simply selling off all her royal jewelry. Until a sudden bright glow from the shadows catches our protagonist's attention, revealing the sneaky red-haired Ginka, who looks completely terrified and out of breath, forcing our broke protagonist to immediately accuse her of trying to steal their non-existent mineral vein, though she quickly shuts him down to warn them that the Demon King is already here, pointing a warning finger at them to run for their lives if they want to survive, before a massive crimson explosion suddenly erupts deeper inside the dark mineshaft, leaving the entire cavern completely empty as our terrified group instantly flees the scene. Back in town, Kamuri casually suggests they just hide in a local inn to avoid the danger. Kamuri asks the princess what kind of person this legendary Urawa Majin actually is. But before she can even guess, a panicked soldier orders everyone to build barricades, as Shogoro's squad confidently steps up to handle the town's defense in their own way, though our boy feels totally safe knowing he still has the legendary King Arthur on standby. Suddenly, Chippy screams a warning as a massive, terrifying magical power rapidly approaches the town, revealing a pair of glowing red eyes lurking within a swirling vortex of dark energy, which instantly unleashes a violent shockwave that sends the local soldiers flying through the air, as the legendary Demon King himself finally descends upon the chaotic streets of Urawa. Blown away by the dust, the princess quickly deploys her elegant barrier to protect Kamuri, only for the terrifying monster to charge forward with absolutely mind-blowing speed, shattering her magical shield like glass and leaving the poor royal completely defenseless, before introducing himself to the trembling girl as Demanigisu, the feared Urawa Majin. He politely bows, claiming he has traveled all this way just to escort her back home, leaving the terrified princess completely speechless as she recognizes his face and calls him uncle, which absolutely breaks our protagonist's brain as he realizes they are actually related, prompting a group of brave soldiers to charge the demon with their weapons drawn. Demenagisu completely ignores their pathetic assault, coldly declaring that the princess is coming with him, before casually releasing a burst of dark lightning that blows his attackers away, while the crying princess desperately begs him to stop, refusing to believe he became a monster, though the cold-hearted demon simply looks down at her, stating this was his own choice. Zeri is completely heartbroken, crying as she stares at her beloved uncle turned terrifying demon lord, but Komori quickly steps in front of her, refusing to let the monster take her away, prompting our brave protagonist to immediately order his legendary summon to launch a fierce counterattack, as Arthur unleashes his legendary British swordsmanship with a massive, glowing swing of his blade, aiming a powerful strike directly at the smug demon lord who refuses to back down, while the legendary king roars with absolute fury as he pushes his physical limits, though the incredibly fast demon lord easily dodges every single slash without breaking a sweat, mockingly telling the legendary warrior that his physical attacks are completely useless against him, forcing our desperate hero to prepare a massive Excalibur blast to vaporize the smug villain, only to hilariously realize that his ultimate skill is still stuck on a massive cooldown, while Demenagisu casually reveals the exact coordinates of the hidden mineral vein to the soldiers, leaving the greedy human defenders completely stunned by this incredibly bizarre and unexpected reward, instantly triggering a chaotic, comedic brawl as they completely forget about the looming threat, making Kamuri realize he desperately needs a brand new hero with a powerful, unique skill, deciding to gamble his remaining fortune on a high-stakes gacha pull to save the day, crushing his precious magic stones with absolute determination because stones are meant to be spent, unleashing a massive, blinding pillar of rainbow light that completely illuminates the entire town, as he successfully summons the legendary UR fighter Thor to turn the tide of battle, prompting the amused demon lord to smirk at the sudden surge of incredible magical power, while our confident hero prepares to unleash a wide-area lightning attack to shock his speedy opponent. Deminigisu just smirks and uses his insane speed to create a wall of afterimages, prompting Thor to immediately unleash his ultimate lightning strike to vaporize the smug demon lord, leaving Zeri and Kamuri watching with bated breath as the blinding light fills the street, which initially looks like a direct hit as residual sparks crackle through the air, only for the terrifying monster to emerge completely unscathed from the smoky wreckage. Kamuri stands frozen in absolute disbelief that his newly summoned god-tier fighter failed, before the demon lord delivers a devastating counterattack that sends Thor crashing down, triggering a brutal system notification confirming that the legendary warrior has been completely defeated, while our shocked protagonist suddenly notices warm blood dripping onto his trembling hand. Realizing the sheer force of the shockwave has left him severely injured and bleeding, his vision begins to blur as the terrifying reality of their defeat finally sinks in, while the crying princess desperately screams his name as she gets carried away, leaving our beaten hero collapsed in a pool of blood, barely able to breathe, as the cold-hearted demon lord mocks his weakness, claiming he cannot protect anyone, before vanishing into a dark portal with the weeping royal princess in tow. Komuri desperately reaches out his bloody hand, cursing his pathetic inability to stop them, screaming into the empty street for the monster to bring her back in vain, until the scene shifts to the majestic castle of Demenegisu on the outskirts, where the captured princess is surprisingly treated like royalty while feeding some white pigeons, sadly explaining that her terrifying captor is actually a distant relative and frontier marquis. Zeri remembers her uncle being super kind to her when she was a little kid, but even though he still treats her nicely, she cannot help but worry about Komuri, as her uncle walks in with some cake, claiming he only wants to protect her, promising not to harm her friends as long as they do not attack his castle. Zeri confidently warns him that Komuri will never stop coming for her, no matter what. Little does the demon lord know, the sneaky assassin Ginka is already hiding in the room, though he remains completely unbothered, explaining that he already sowed chaos among the humans, ensuring the local army will fight amongst themselves instead of launching a rescue mission, leaving him to mock humanity as a tragic species that always destroys itself. Heartbroken by his cold words, the poor princess can only shed a silent tear, while the white pigeons fly away, leaving her to pray for her friend's safety. Meanwhile, back in the chaotic town of Arawa, the local soldiers are on high alert when a messenger pigeon suddenly lands on our heavily bandaged protagonist's arm, carrying an urgent report from Eboshi about the princess's current location inside the castle. Reading the system message, Komuri realizes the glasses-wearing demon is actually keeping her safe, but the painful truth is that this monster is still far too strong to defeat, prompting Mizuki to climb up and express her shock about Zeri's true royal identity, while she apologizes for their failure to protect her during the chaotic demon attack. Our boy gently reassures her, admitting that the defeat was entirely due to his own weakness, before letting the bird fly away as he sadly declares he is not worthy of being her knight. Mizuki eats her lunch while worrying that the Demon King will eventually find the princess, so she feeds our bandaged hero a bite while insisting they must rescue her, leaving Komuri to silently chew on his food with a deeply troubled expression, though he admits he wants to save her too as they look down at the street, where the local soldiers are already screaming at each other over the demon's mineral vein, with one side arguing that rebuilding the town should be their absolute top priority, while the angry eye patch commander insists they must mine the ore to build weapons, instantly sparking a violent clash of ideals as the two leaders grab each other, before winding up their fists in absolute rage because they cannot stand each other anymore, delivering a brutal double punch that hits both of them square in the face. This instantly triggers a massive, chaotic street brawl as all the soldiers join the fight, making Mizuki burst into tears as she realizes the town has completely divided itself, which absolutely triggers our protagonist as he watches his lunch provider cry in despair, prompting him to furiously yell at the brawlers to stop making her cry, though the greedy soldiers quickly dismiss him, claiming Arawa is theirs to rule now. Realizing they are all dancing in the palm of the Demon Lord's hand, Komuri snaps, activating a bright magic circle to put an end to this ridiculous civil war himself, summoning the R-rank sorcerer Count Cagliostro, who immediately laughs at how easily humans are fooled, boasting that humanity's rigid beliefs make them incredibly easy to manipulate with simple illusions, before floating directly over the stunned brawlers to preach the spirit of liberty and equality. Cagliostro's illusion instantly takes effect, choking the greedy soldiers with a painful imaginary necklace, making our boy laugh hysterically as he mocks them for crying over a simple trick. But their brief victory is cut short when Mizuki completely loses her mind in panic, crying that she wants to quit the army because Arawa is absolutely doomed. Suddenly, a bright flash of light interrupts her breakdown as a familiar face appears, revealing the angry red-haired warrior who screams that a brand new threat is already here, pointing directly toward the horizon where a massive, ominous red dust cloud is approaching, as the terrifying mechanical horde of the Yono demon army marches toward the town, leaving the exhausted human defenders frozen in sheer terror as they realize they cannot move. Komuri quickly pulls up his system map, realizing the enemy timed this attack perfectly, while Mizuki weeps because their strongest reinforcement is too far away to help them, just as a messenger pigeon delivers a brutal ultimatum demanding their immediate surrender. Despair washes over the crowd as the soldiers complain about their complete lack of strength, though the red-haired girl fiercely demands total resistance while our hero remembers she was hiding, before the demon commander coldly orders his entire army to launch a full-scale extermination, prompting Mizuki to scream that she is actually a scientist who does not want to die, which completely stuns our protagonist as he questions her ridiculous military job placement. Gritting his teeth, Komuri realizes he cannot afford to stand by and watch anymore, recalling his brutal defeat and reminding himself that a true hero never gives up, as the memory of the crying princess fuels his determination to fight until the very end. Komuri locks in with absolute determination, swearing to reclaim his beloved princess no matter what, before leaping straight off the roof while telling a panicked Mizuki to get to safety, leaving the tearful scientist watching in absolute terror as he dives into the fray, as our boy lands in a cool superhero pose, clutching his final magic stone, ready to gamble everything on one last gotcha pull to restore his shattered honor. while the mechanical squid commander of the Yono demon army orders a full-scale invasion, unleashing a devastating barrage of explosions that completely tears through the town's defenses, which leaves the local defenders panicking as they realize their stupid infighting ruined everything, prompting the guilty eye patch commander to vow a suicidal last stand to redeem himself. But their broken unity makes them incredibly easy prey for the advancing mechanical horde. Meanwhile, Mizuki hilariously tries to hide inside a dumpster, only to get immediately spotted, as the smug mechanical commander recognizes her uniform and targets her as a priority, launching a lethal high-speed drill attack directly at the terrified girl's hiding spot, forcing her to scream in absolute horror as her life flashes before her eyes. Until our furious protagonist suddenly intercepts the strike with a roaring battle cry, delivering a massive, flaming kick that sends the smug metallic monster flying backward, standing protectively in front of the dumpster as he vows to keep her safe, before his newly summoned mountaineer gacha hero cheerfully activates her unique high ground skill, dropping a brutal surprise attack from above that completely catches the enemy off guard, leaving the shocked mechanical commander screaming in disbelief as the tide of battle turns. Explosions rock the tall watchtower as the enemy army launches a devastating bombardment on the town, while Kamuri holds his newly summoned mountaineer, casually hovering his finger over a cruel delete button, which completely shocks the mechanical commander below as he realizes the supposedly defeated hero is back, prompting our boy to boast that he can recover instantly whenever a girl needs protecting, before he leaps straight off the high ledge to dive headfirst into the chaotic battle, praying that his desperate mid-air gacha pull will grant him a highly useful top-tier warrior, as a bright summoning circle manifests above the advancing mechanical squid commander. Out comes Count Cagliostro babbling about the French Revolution, leaving Kamuri screaming in absolute terror, though the eccentric sorcerer quickly swings his glowing staff to activate his unique necklace skill, sending a magical pearl necklace wrapping tightly around the enemy commander's metallic cables, which instantly chokes the giant mechanical beast and completely halts its deadly advance. Unfortunately, the fancy con artist has zero defensive skills, leaving both of them falling helplessly, until the massive robot crashes violently into the ground to the absolute horror of its subordinates, followed by Kamuri landing face first right on top of the dazed commander's head, while the poor sorcerer suffers a fiery crash landing due to his terribly low luck stat. A brutal system notification immediately pops up, confirming Cagliostro's HP has already dropped to 0, leaving the recovering mechanical boss to mock their pathetic attempt as Kamuri panics in despair. But back on the watchtower, the blue-haired girl slowly opens her eyes and groans, quickly realizing that her summoner is completely gone and screaming in absolute panic before she desperately prepares to deploy the detached unit's ultimate weapon to wipe out the threat. Mizuki desperately deploys a massive high-tech cannon from the top of the watchtower, but she immediately covers her ears in sheer panic as the giant weapon fires, unleashing a devastating barrage of explosive shells that completely devastates the streets below, forcing our terrified protagonist to run for his life from his own allies' friendly fire, while Ginka also flees the chaotic explosions, screaming that her stealth mode is totally useless. Suddenly, the two running allies crash directly into each other with a hilarious double shout, prompting the angry assassin to demand that our S-rank hero stop his crazy teammate, as the local soldiers watch the massive tower fire, wondering if it's an enemy attack, leaving Kamuri to desperately scream at the watchtower for Mizuki to stop destroying the town, though the tearful scientist can only cry that she is forced to fight for survival. Realizing her extreme panic makes it impossible to coordinate, our boy starts to stress out, until a sudden spark of genius flashes in his eyes as he formulates a plan, quickly whispering a wild survival strategy directly into the red-haired assassin's ear, while the giant watchtower cannon continues to rain absolute destruction down on the battlefield, which actually terrifies the mechanical demon commander, who is now seriously considering a retreat. Out of nowhere, Ginka casually drops right next to the giant robot to greet him, introducing herself as an ability user who wants to team up against the crazy gunner, leaving the mechanical squid and his robotic minions completely stunned by her bizarre proposal, though she confidently argues that they can settle their own war after saving the town, offering to guide the entire demon army through a safe back route to flank the tower. This mechanical commander immediately agrees to the alliance, desperate to stop the town's total destruction, ordering his robotic minions to surround the tower while Ginka leads the charge forward, leading the entire demon army straight to the front gates just as planned, where Kamuri is casually waiting on the steps with his brand new historical summon, leaving the mechanical squid completely horrified as he realizes they walked into a trap. Kamuri smugly boasts that his latest gacha pull is the ultimate counter to their entire army, introducing the legendary Emperor Napoleon, who is more than ready to suppress these robotic rebels, summoning a massive glowing cannon that aims directly at the terrified mechanical horde, prompting our crazy protagonist to stick his tongue out and order an immediate strike, while the system displays Napoleon's legendary lore of rising from exile to greatness. He was a ruthless commander who used devastating artillery to crush any rebellion in Paris, leading his unstoppable continental army to conquer almost the entirety of Europe, before ascending the throne as the undisputed emperor and master of tactical warfare, which is exactly why Kamuri screams for him to unleash that legendary firepower now, as the eccentric emperor boasts that his military might is unmatched across the world. A colossal beam of pure destructive energy erupts from the cannon, vaporizing the battlefield, tearing through the enemy ranks and sending robotic parts flying in every direction, leaving the surviving minions to scream in absolute terror at this monstrous display of power. though Napoleon simply laughs off the carnage while Komuri watches with a deadpan expression. Before the arrogant emperor orders Ginka to use her stealth skills to disarm the watchtower gunner, Napoleon declares himself the new supreme commander, ordering the local soldiers to join his continental army, which completely stuns the local commanders as they instantly submit to his overwhelming authority, prompting the dramatic emperor to point toward the sky and rally them for a glorious counterattack, screaming that they should all take immense pride in fighting under his legendary banner, as he promises that the history books will forever remember them as true heroes. This insane speech completely fires up the exhausted defenders, who begin chanting for their new leader, while a system notification confirms that Napoleon's high-level speech skill has successfully buffed the entire army, forcing the terrified mechanical squid commander to immediately order a full-scale strategic retreat to save his minions. Up on the watchtower, Ginka successfully captures the panicked scientist, stopping the friendly fire just in time, leaving Komuri to praise his new summon before Napoleon calls him a fool of a master, explaining that the battle isn't over until they deliver a devastating finishing blow from this extreme distance. As the retreating robotic horde desperately scrambles down the main street to escape the town. Striking a dramatic pose, the eccentric emperor prepares to unleash his ultimate weapon upon the fleeing enemies, causing a massive mechanical barrel to rapidly extend and transform right in front of them, splitting apart into a high-tech artillery system that hums with an immense amount of magical energy, which leaves our protagonist completely speechless as a colossal cannon materializes right in the middle of the street. Napoleon fiercely commands his master to pull the trigger and liberate the town from the demon invaders, prompting Komuri to lock in and aim his hand like a gun to initiate the strike, unleashing a colossal beam of destructive energy that tears through the streets with blinding speed, which completely vaporizes the mechanical commander and his entire army in one glorious explosive blast. Smoke clears from the massive blast as Komuri stands completely stunned by Napoleon's terrifying destructive power. And while our boy celebrates reclaiming his honor, the arrogant emperor immediately demands a massive victory feast, which leads to a wild celebration with overflowing mugs of beer to toast their survival, as the local defenders and soldiers officially put aside their differences to become true comrades. But the peaceful atmosphere quickly shifts when the eccentric emperor starts staring intensely at a nervous Mizuki, prompting him to dramatically demand the beautiful scientist company for the night as his ultimate reward, leaving Komuri to shield her while screaming that a legendary hero cannot behave like that. Though the dramatic conqueror insists he absolutely needs a woman's love to fuel his battlefield strength, before he huffily decides to return to the server, leaving his master crying over losing his best unit. While the assistant hilariously reveals that the legendary emperor only fought so hard to impress girls, which Mizuki finds incredibly shocking as she listens to the sad history of his failed marriage. Until the eye-patch commander suddenly looms behind her to point out she completely wrecked the town, causing the terrified girl to burst into tears and dramatically offer to end her own life. But our quick-thinking protagonist immediately steps in to save his friend from her own guilt, spinning a wild lie that her destructive cannon fire was actually a brilliant decoy strategy, as he quickly winks at a very confused Ginka to get her to play along, which completely fools the local commanders, who happily thank Mizuki for keeping everyone alive, prompting a fired-up Komuri to suggest they immediately march on the castle of the Glasses Majin. But the exhausted soldiers sweat drop and insist that rebuilding their ruined town must come first, leaving our stubborn protagonist to huff in annoyance and declare he will just go by himself. Komuri walks away from the group, leaving a worried Mizuki staring after him in complete silence, as our boy sprints down the corridor, boasting that his gacha skill can win this alone. But a sudden terrifying memory flashes in his mind, freezing him completely in his tracks, revealing a dark vision of a completely ruined wasteland under a cold, lonely moon, where a sinister purple aura of absolute corruption begins to wrap tightly around his body, bringing back painful memories of a burning city overrun by endless hordes of demonic enemies, which triggers a massive wave of panic as sweat pours down his terrified face, recalling the exact moment he was poisoned and left coughing in absolute agony, before he collapsed onto the cold hard ground, completely helpless against the dark magic, realizing too late that the deadly corruption status effect had already taken hold of him. He remembers lying in a pool of his own blood while a mocking voice called him weak, while a powerful elven demon sneered that a weakling has no right to protect the princess, leaving our protagonist with nothing but bitter regret burning deep inside his trembling eyes, since the brutal demon army had systematically stripped away everything he ever cared about, tormenting him day after day until he was left kneeling alone in the dark, believing that no matter how hard he struggles, he is destined to lose to them, forcing Komuri to grab his head in sheer panic, desperately trying to block the memories, screaming at himself to stop thinking about the horrific failures of his past life, until a warm, gentle hand suddenly wraps around his shoulder to break the dark spell, with Mizuki hugging him tightly from behind, softly asking if he is finally okay. Mizuki gently reassures our boy that Ziri is still alive, even though she was captured, explaining that if he fights with Napoleon's tactical brilliance, they can definitely rescue her, which instantly shatters his dark thoughts as he realizes he still has a chance, finding the inner strength to stand up and fight for his friends once again. He remembers how the erosion of the otherworld left him with absolutely nowhere to belong, until his new companions became a real family that he only appreciated after losing them, while Mizuki sadly reveals that her own family was scattered during that same terrible disaster, explaining that the sudden demon attack triggered her past trauma and made her completely panic, Refusing to let the demons keep taking everything, our boy stands up with renewed determination, prompting the hopeful scientist to point out his overpowered gotcha skill can defeat any enemy, though they must act fast before the terrifying Demon King arrives at the castle, leaving Kamuri with no choice but to clench his fist and prepare for battle. He dramatically vows to rescue Zeri and reunite her with her long-lost family in Gunma, before his greedy side takes over as he dreams of spending his rewards on endless gacha. Shifting the scene to the mobile tent of the Tokyo Independent Task Force, where their cute commander returns with urgent news that the Demon King is inspecting Urawa. Our arrogant protagonist immediately boasts that his skills can easily crush this new threat too, but the commander warns that the enemy army is 6 times larger than before, forcing a sweating Kamuri to admit they desperately need to recruit the local defenders, before he hilariously tries to dump the leadership duties onto a completely terrified Mizuki. Mizuki nervously explains that her task force only handles local patrols and lacks authority over the main army. But our boy argues that teaming up is their best shot at defeating the massive demon horde, even though the cute commander reveals they are actually just an engineering unit meant for digging trenches, which immediately gets Kamuri thinking about how to exploit their unique digging skills for his next play, sparking a sudden brilliant idea that flashes through his mind like a bolt of lightning, prompting him to grab Mizuki's hands and excitedly declare that they are going to fight together, detailing a wild strategy where the task force acts as decoys while he sneaks into the castle, leaving the poor scientist completely horrified as she realizes they are basically being used as meat shields, until our protagonist activates his ultimate puppy dog eyes, making it absolutely impossible for her to refuse, while Aurelia surprisingly agrees with the plan, reassuring her crying friend that everything will be fine. This scene shifts to the Great Plains outside Urawa Castle as the demon army marches forward, instantly alerting the robotic commanders who angrily order their forces to annihilate the incoming human raiders, forcing the brave task force soldiers to raise their heavy shields and prepare for the clash, as they rapidly dig trenches to hold the line and pin down the massive demon army, while Kamuri begins scaling the incredibly steep cliffs of the enemy's mountain fortress far away, grinning as he reaches a ledge, confident that the decoy distraction has worked perfectly, before he playfully teases a climbing Mizuki, asking if she followed him because of a secret crush, though she bluntly admits she only came because Aurelia suggested using him as a meat shield, prompting our unbothered hero to explain that Masu's climbing skill will easily shortcut their path, as he urges her to climb just 5 more meters while she screams in absolute terror. Kamuri urges Masu to keep climbing while telling a nervous Mizuki to watch her step, but a sudden slip on the loose rocks instantly sends their plans into absolute chaos, as a terrified Mizuki loses her grip and begins plummeting down the steep cliffside, prompting our quick-thinking protagonist to immediately order Masu to activate her special climbing skill, while the poor scientist continues to fall, screaming in absolute terror for her life, until a blinding flash of magical energy erupts from Masu's activated ability, causing a massive, fully grown tree to instantly sprout right out of the solid rock. Hanging upside down from a branch, a dizzy Kamuri groans while Masu celebrates their success, pointing out that the enemy's main castle is sitting directly below their new vantage point, which prompts our boy to quickly swap her out for a combat-ready summon instead, before he securely ties a heavy rope around the sturdy trunk to prepare their descent, sliding down the cliffside with Mizuki to infiltrate the Glasses Demon's fortress directly, only to land right in front of 2 heavily armored robotic demon guards. These elite grunts immediately spot the intruders, demanding to know who they are, before sounding a loud alarm to alert the entire castle of the human attack, leaving a sweating Kamuri to realize he must defeat every single one of them, since saving Zeri is the only thing that truly matters to him right now. Regretting his lack of a stealth skill, our hero prepares to face the oncoming horde, but Mizuki quickly hands him a glowing magic stone to boost his summoning power, inspiring a fired-up Kamuri to immediately trigger his ultimate hero summon gacha to protect her. Kamuri activates his summoning circle, declaring that his precious gacha stones are meant to be broken, which completely terrifies the robotic guards who recognize him as the legendary S-rank ability user, as a massive hand slams onto the glowing magic circle to answer his desperate call, revealing a legendary warrior who greets our boy with a confident and booming voice, with the mighty SR-rank fighter Heracles officially joining the battle to exterminate the demons, leaving the robotic guards absolutely shaking in fear at his overwhelming surge of magical power. Our hyped protagonist declares that the table is set for an epic revenge match, ready to take down 100 enemies alongside his newly summoned Greek powerhouse. But the robotic guards quickly order their surrounding forces to encircle and annihilate them, forcing Kamuri to realize that standard attacks won't be enough to clear this massive horde, which prompts him to immediately unleash Heracles' powerful one-time-use unique skill, triggering a colossal fiery strike that completely incinerates the front lines of the enemy, before the exhausted Greek hero fades away, urging his master to quickly summon the next ally. Left alone once more, Kamuri immediately begins channeling his magic for another hero pull, but the clever robotic guards spot the brief opening and charge directly at a terrified Mizuki, prompting our brave protagonist to throw himself in front of her to block the incoming strike, taking a brutal direct hit to his back as the scientist screams his name in horror, leaving him with a deep bleeding wound while he bitterly regrets not having Zeri's defensive barrier, since his fragile human body simply cannot survive another heavy blow without some serious protection, as he desperately prays for a healer or a guard while a mysterious new silhouette emerges. Kamuri pulls a rare tier sorcerer named Count Cagliostro, but his paper-thin defense is a major problem, and the robotic guards immediately jump the poor magician before he can even finish chanting, leaving our boy with no choice but to desperately roll the gacha once again, only to summon the exact same useless sorcerer who immediately starts his dramatic speech, which gets him instantly obliterated by the guards for a second time in a row, forcing a sweating Kamuri to realize he must break this terrible losing streak to survive. This poor sorcerer keeps getting absolutely pulverized while the robotic guards swarm him without mercy, before they decide to ignore the summons entirely and target our protagonist's head directly, sending a wave of absolute terror through Mizuki as she stares at the oncoming threat, until she collapses to the cold floor in complete panic while Kamuri watches in shock. Suddenly, the terrified scientist insists there must be a hidden defense mechanism inside the castle, pointing wildly at the wall while our skeptical hero thinks she is just losing her mind. But a massive high-tech emergency escape capsule suddenly rises right out of the solid ground, prompting Mizuki to dive headfirst inside while screaming at Kamuri to follow her lead, leaving our boy wondering if her crazy engineering skill actually manifested this bizarre escape pod, though he quickly prepares to roll his gacha again to turn the tide of battle. Meanwhile, the scene shifts deep inside the castle where the sinister glasses demon dines with Ziri, while a tiny hooded ally watches them closely from a hidden spot in the ceiling, realizing with a sweat that the powerful demon commander has absolutely no openings to exploit. As the villain calmly explains that the princess's spirit summoning skill is the ultimate threat, this glasses demon reveals that Ziri actually gave up her overpowered spirit summoning skill, which is why he decided to shelter her in his castle while apologizing for his past actions. But a confused Ziri still demands to know why her uncle chose to become a demon, prompting him to explain how his family was cornered during the initial invasion, forcing him to drink demon blood to gain the power needed to protect them. Now, he activates his ultimate barrier to completely seal off the castle tower, ensuring that no outside forces can interfere while they wait out the storm, though Ziri desperately begs him to stop the war since Kamuri is already on his way, while the demon commander calmly promises not to pursue the humans if they just retreat. His main goal is actually figuring out why her skill merged with the game's servers, wondering how this mysterious mobile technology can bypass magical interference so easily, until a mechanical messenger pigeon suddenly flies through the window to interrupt his thoughts, projecting a bright green holographic screen that delivers an urgent warning about an intruder, revealing that our overpowered protagonist has successfully breached the castle's defenses with his crazy skills, leaving the shocked demon commander to realize that the legendary S-rank boy is actually here, while Ziri gasps in pure relief and worry upon hearing her friend's name. Outside, our bleeding hero stands before the massive barrier with his trusty bat, bitterly complaining about his terrible gacha luck for failing to pull a single healer, before he glances back at the high-tech escape pod that saved them, only to find a completely dizzy Mizuki passed out cold inside the capsule. Kamuri finally reaches the tower, ready to take down the glasses demon and rescue Zeri, while the trapped princess desperately begs her uncle to lower the barrier and save him. But the stubborn commander refuses, wanting our boy to prove he can actually protect her, as he unleashes a massive wave of dark magic to test the intruder's strength, leaving Ziri screaming in absolute panic for her uncle to stop this madness. Outside, a massive surge of dark energy suddenly erupts around the fallen robotic guards, wrapping their broken bodies in a sinister purple glow that begins to reanimate them, turning the defeated grunts into terrifying red-eyed zombie machines right before his eyes, prompting our shocked hero to loudly complain about this unfair demon transformation cheat, especially since the sleeping Mizuki is still trapped inside the capsule right next to them. Zeri desperately begs her uncle to stop, but he insists on respecting the boy's resolve, while Kamuri confidently yells back that his invincible gacha skill will easily save the day, only to freeze in confusion as he reaches into his pocket for a stone, realizing with absolute horror that he has completely run out of summoning materials. This sudden blunder leaves Ziri and her tiny hooded ally watching in utter disbelief as our sweating protagonist checks his system screen and realizes his mistake, dramatically crying out about how the almighty hero could get cornered like this, before his terrified expression instantly melts away into a smug, confident grin, teasing his enemies because there is absolutely no way he would fight without a plan, as he leaps high into the air to execute his secret counter-strategy. This glasses demon looks completely stunned as he senses some unexpected floating magic nearby, while a red-haired girl suddenly pops up to tease our struggling protagonist in the middle of battle, carrying him princess style while reminding him that he was supposed to handle these puppets alone, which completely catches the reanimated robotic guards off guard as a loud battle cry echoes, revealing a whole squad of human soldiers descending from the sky to join the chaotic brawl, led by a hyped-up eye-patch commander who is absolutely ready to settle their grudge, boasting that the incredible teamwork of their autonomous army is unmatched in all of Japan. Watching from the castle window, Ziri and Chippy are totally baffled by this sudden reinforcement, while the demon commander realizes they actually climbed the incredibly dangerous death route just to fight. But a stylish pair of boots suddenly lands right in the middle of the action, revealing a cute girl in a white military uniform who casually comments on the enemy's zombification, prompting a crying Kamuri to complain that she almost let them get completely obliterated. She easily slices through a robot, apologizing because her dangerous skill required official military approval, before she casually tosses a heavy bag of precious mana stones over to him, which our hype protagonist catches with pure joy, ready to fuel his next gotcha summon, though he wonders why she doesn't just use her overpowered skill to wipe out the demons. Learning that both demons and zombies have a high natural resistance to her specific magic. Slicing another enemy, she warns him to keep her true ability a secret before asking about Mizuki, leaving Komuri to point out the weird high-tech escape pod where the scientist is currently sleeping. Unaware that the military girl secretly gifted Mizuki a powerful passive skill without her even knowing. This passive skill allows Mizuki to manifest crazy imaginary weapons whenever she starts to panic. But the catch is that she can never find out about this ability's existence, keeping her completely in the dark so she can continue to unconsciously protect herself, while the brave human soldiers tell Komuri to leave the zombie horde to them. Our hyped protagonist immediately focuses on the massive barrier blocking his path to the tower, realizing he needs a top-tier siege specialist to break through this insane magical defense, which prompts him to initiate a high-stakes summon as a legendary warrior answers his call, revealing the ultra-rare King Arthur, who is ready to unleash his legendary Excalibur strike. Komuri wastes absolutely no time and charges forward alongside his newly summoned British king, ready to shatter the barrier with a massive glowing wave of holy sword magic, causing the impenetrable shield to instantly crack right before Chippy's shocked eyes. Though the intense magical backlash begins to take a heavy toll on our heroes, they pour every ounce of their strength into one final desperate push, ignoring the severe physical pain as the barrier's defensive feedback tears at them. But the determined protagonist refuses to back down when his friend is so close, finally shattering the massive magical wall with a spectacular explosive burst of power. Our boy leaps straight through the debris, loudly declaring that he is here to rescue Zeri, leaving the trapped princess absolutely horrified to see his bloodied and battered state, until a sudden wave of sinister red ribbons wraps tightly around her and Chippy, as the glasses demon restrains them both while calmly apologizing for his sudden rudeness. This smug glasses demon points his finger, declaring that our boy only has two choices left. But suddenly, the shattered magical wall begins to crackle with an intense purple energy, as the powerful commander instantly restores the barrier, completely shocking the human reinforcements, while revealing a cold, red-eyed glare that proves he is done playing nice, before he moves with blinding speed to absolutely shred our heroes with dark magic. King Arthur takes the brunt of the damage, warning Komuri that his HP is hitting 0, prompting our bleeding protagonist to apologize for pushing his legendary summon way too hard, though the noble knight tells him not to worry, while Komuri desperately wishes for a healer, as Arthur looks back on his tragic final battle in life at Camlon, which makes our awkward hero apologize for bringing up such a depressing historical memory. But the king just smiles and says he finally understands something about human resolve, before leaping forward to block one last devastating magical strike from the demon, shattering his legendary holy sword while casually joking about what kind of men ladies prefer, leaving our boy to watch in silence as the brave knight bids him farewell, fading away into glowing digital particles after successfully buying his master enough time. Komuri stands completely stunned in the empty room, holding only a broken sword hilt, while Zeri desperately screams at her uncle to stop this completely one-sided beatdown, though the cold commander simply tells our protagonist to give up and go home, warning that he can easily sever his wrist before Komuri can even break a mana stone, which only prompts our bloody hero to flash a smug, incredibly suspicious grin. Komuri flashes a smug grin and holds up a glowing blue mana stone, leaving the stunned demon commander wondering why this stubborn human refuses to accept defeat, as he unleashes a surge of purple magic to stop the boy from summoning. But our clever protagonist reveals that this was all just a brilliant bait, sending a sudden, brutal physical strike crashing directly into the shocked commander's face, which triggers a painful memory of a past defeat for the bleeding demon, reminding him of a terrifying monster he once faced during the initial invasion. Before Komuri follows up with a devastating kick that shatters the ground, causing the commander to cough up blood as his glasses get completely cracked, while our hyped hero confidently declares that it is finally his turn to win. This commander's broken gold glasses clatter loudly onto the cold stone floor, as the demon stumbles back in agonizing pain while Zeri watches in horror, prompting Komuri to boast about his special boots embedded with high-purity hilaridite, preparing to seize this golden opportunity to end the fight once and for all by crushing his last remaining mana stone to summon another powerful ally. But the desperate commander lunges forward with a sudden burst of purple lightning, shredding our hero's arms and forcing him to drop the precious stone, before the demon calmly retrieves his glasses and commends the boy's impressive effort, declaring checkmate as he stands triumphantly over our defeated and bleeding protagonist, while a crying Zeri desperately begs her uncle to spare her friend's life. This smug commander claims he only spared our hero's arm out of respect for his courage, but Komuri immediately tells him to shut up with that absolute nonsense as he prepares to strike, leaping straight into the air with his last glowing blue mana stone held high, slamming the magical rock directly into the shocked demon's face with a brutal blow, since our battered protagonist realizes he doesn't even need grip strength to activate the summon, planning to break the stone by crushing it against his enemy's hard skull. This terrifying persistence leaves the commander completely baffled as to why the boy goes so far, triggering a deep memory of when he was just a human noble ruling a peaceful city, living happily while protecting his beloved wife, children, and the smiles of his people. until the fateful day of the sudden invasion changed his entire life forever, when his entire territory was forcibly transported to this chaotic world alongside their mortal enemies, throwing his loyal soldiers into absolute panic as the demon army launched a relentless assault, forcing the noble commander to fight on the front lines against overwhelming monstrous forces. He quickly realized that mere human strength stood absolutely no chance against this demonic threat, leaving him desperate to find any way to protect his family and subjects, which drove him to make the ultimate tragic sacrifice by abandoning his own humanity, transforming himself into a powerful demon to gain the strength he so desperately needed, only to find that his castle had already fallen to the almighty Demon King anyway, ultimately submitting to the Dark Lord in exchange for his family's safety. Back in the present, the commander looks at our stubborn hero in complete disbelief. Kamuri's bloodied hand grips the cracked mana stone, but it stubbornly refuses to shatter, leaving our battered protagonist to despair as he fears losing everything to the demons once again, before he completely collapses onto the cold stone floor, silently apologizing to his captured friend, while the precious blue stone rolls away, cracked and seemingly useless on the ground. Seeing this, Zeri furiously demands that her uncle release her and respect his own knightly code, crying out that Kamuri is her true knight and she will end her life if he dies, which completely shocks the commander, forcing him to immediately release her from the binding ribbons, though he warns her that continuing her journey with this boy will only bring the Demon King's wrath. Ignoring his warnings, the princess rushes straight to our fallen hero's side to check on him, while her desperate uncle screams that staying in his castle is the only way to save Kamuri's life, suddenly realizing that he has become the exact same monster as the Demon King who ruined his life. But Zeri gently looks up, thanking her uncle for all the kindness he showed her growing up, before firmly declaring that she will choose her own path and continue her journey with Kamuri. Hearing her resolve, the commander can only smile softly as he remembers her favorite childhood saying, accepting her choice before turning his intense gaze back toward our struggling protagonist, unleashing a massive surge of purple lightning to challenge the boy to prove his worth. And though Zeri begs them to stop, Kamuri slowly stands up and smiles at the simple terms, confidently declaring that the winner of this final clash will officially be crowned the princess's knight, prompting the proud commander to gladly wager his life and dare the boy to surpass him, as our hyped hero activates a protective barrier, desperately praying for a top-tier attack summon. Kamuri triggers a massive WR draw, confidently declaring that he is officially Zeri's knight, but his excitement instantly dies when the legendary Jeanne d'Arc manifests as a healer, who immediately starts throwing a massive tantrum because our boy previously deleted her from his account, explaining that she got permanently added to the general pool because nobody pulled for her, which leads to a hilarious shouting match as she flat out refuses to fight for him. Watching this chaos, Zeri desperately begs him to stop bickering and use his last stone wisely, while the demon commander watches in absolute disbelief at their ridiculous lack of teamwork, deciding to end this pathetic struggle once and for all with another surge of lightning. Our boy quickly orders Jeanne to protect the girls, promising she can get her revenge on him later, as she unleashes her ultimate blessing to barely hold back the commander's devastating magical assault, prompting our protagonist to prepare his final mana stone for one last desperate gotcha roll, though the girls warn him that the current defensive shield will instantly shatter if they stop, leaving him trapped in a brutal checkmate where any choice leads to immediate disaster, until a sudden glowing system notification interrupts the battle with a loud chime, revealing that he has somehow unlocked a mysterious late-game mission completion reward. It turns out he cleared a hidden courtyard mission, expanding his deck to summon 2 heroes simultaneously, which instantly sparks a brilliant, game-changing realization in our clever protagonist's eyes, remembering the massive horde of grunts he defeated earlier while cursing the system's slow reward delivery. Desperate, our hero tells his allies to hold on as he smashes his final stone for an attacker, but his jaw drops in pure horror when the magic circle reveals a trash-tier R-rank summon. This cheap R-rank magic circle suddenly cracks apart with a strange purple glow, and our boy watches in shock as the summon's rarity miraculously upgrades to gold, triggering a massive system warning that the server doesn't even recognize this glitched hero, as a creepy fanged smile emerges from the dark smoke of the broken portal, revealing a sinister book-wielding SSR sorcerer who claims he answered the maiden's desperate prayer, while the system continues to spam error messages about this completely unimplemented character, leaving Kamuri to scream in pure confusion about what an unimplemented hero even is, before the creepy new summon glares right back and demands to know his identity, which only makes our panicked protagonist wonder what kind of monster he just pulled. But John immediately recognizes the man as Gilles de Rais, shocked by his corrupted appearance, prompting Kamuri to point out that this guy looks exactly like a literal serial killer, though Gilles ignores him entirely, creepily greeting Jeanne as his beloved eternal maiden, as the demon commander realizes this new challenger is actually possessed by a powerful demon, which Gilles calmly confirms by explaining how he merged with a demon during his life, declaring that he has absolutely no regrets if this dark power can protect his saint, prompting the curious commander to ask why a noble marshal would ever abandon his humanity, as Gilles looks back, stating they both abandoned their humanity for the exact same reason, beginning a tragic flashback to the 100 Years' War when France was saved by Jeanne, where Gilles fought proudly alongside her as a loyal knight commander to achieve ultimate glory, until she was tragically captured by their enemies and executed as a heretical witch. Gilles spent an absolute fortune trying to resurrect Jean through the forbidden arts of alchemy, but his human hands couldn't create miracles, leaving him to mourn her permanent loss. Realizing that only gods or demons could perform miracles, he cursed the heavens for abandoning her, which drove him to summon a powerful demon and merge with it for dark power. After falling into a deep slumber, he miraculously heard Jean's voice calling out from the darkness, discovering that his new demonic strength had somehow revived his beloved saint in this world. Though his dark crimes kept him from being officially implemented, his sheer will forced his manifestation, leaving the demon commander to smile as he finally understands his opponent's tragic motivation, declaring that this is a clash between two warriors who abandoned humanity for love. While Jean is deeply touched, Kamuri panics because his new summon is completely ignoring him, as the commander suddenly lunges forward at blinding speed to test the sorcerer's power, boasting that no mere demon can possibly keep up with his high-speed movements, aiming a devastating lightning-fast strike directly at the stationary marshal to end the fight. But Gilles easily blocks the incoming assault with a glowing, intricate magical barrier. Our smug protagonist watches with a grin, knowing his glitched summon is absolutely broken, when a massive shockwave erupts from the collision, completely halting the commander's momentum, who screams in sudden agony as a strange burning energy wraps around his body, realizing in pure horror that his own magic power is being violently absorbed by the shield, forcing him to stumble backward onto the cold stone floor in complete shock, demanding to know where this terrifying marshal obtained such an overwhelming godlike power. Gilles explains that his unique skill allows him to trap powerful demons inside a magic circle, but the sheer strain of holding this barrier forces him to cough up a massive amount of blood. Seeing this, the smug commander boasts that his overwhelming magic power is far too strong to absorb, unleashing his full energy to break free and recover control over his chaotic purple lightning. Suddenly, a terrifying demonic entity manifests behind the commander to completely take over his body, causing his magic to go completely berserk as the dark entity forces its way to the surface, prompting Jean to desperately scream at Gilles to fall back before his glitched soul completely fades away, though the stubborn marshal flatly refuses her order, declaring he will always remain her loyal knight, while the fully possessed commander boasts that he has sealed his host's mind to destroy them all. Stepping up to protect his summon, Kamuri confidently tells the marshal to leave the rest to him, preparing to activate the marshal's unique skill himself since he is technically the summoner in charge, only for an incredibly awkward silence to fill the room as absolutely nothing happens after his grand speech, leaving our panicked protagonist to scream in pure confusion about why the magic circle won't appear, as Jean explains that he cannot use the skill without forming an official master-servant bond first. Quickly casting her ultimate archangel blessing to block another devastating blast from the rampaging demon, she warns Kamuri that their true legendary abilities can only be fully unlocked through a proper contract, explaining that since Gilles manifested on his own, he lacks the raw mana to defeat this monster, meaning they must immediately form a contract to connect their magic and boost the barrier's strength. Except Gilles instantly refuses because he only serves Jean, sending our stressed protagonist into a hilarious rage. Just as their defensive shield begins to shatter under the demon's relentless, high-powered magical assault, Zerzi desperately begs her possessed uncle to wake up and resist the dark demonic influence, while Kamuri prepares to charge into battle using his specially crafted anti-demon shoes. But Gilles suddenly grabs his shoulder, warning the reckless boy that he will only die, though our stubborn protagonist refuses to back down while Zeri is still in danger. Staring into the boy's eyes, the corrupted marshal realizes Kamuri reminds him of someone, a brave soul who was willing to sacrifice everything for the sake of another, triggering a sudden memory of his own past as a loyal knight serving the maiden, when he was just a young warrior who deeply admired the legendary Night King. Reaching out, Gilles firmly grips our surprised protagonist's hand to make a final decision, offering to form a temporary contract so they can use their combined strength to protect Jean, which Kamuri gladly accepts as they prepare to face the rampaging monster together, unleashing a brilliant surge of magical energy that binds their souls in a proper contract. This sudden pact instantly triggers a massive glowing magic circle right beneath the startled demon, as our hyped hero confidently unleashes the full power of Chantos's demon, standing proudly alongside his glitched summon to activate their ultimate cooperative spell, while the sheer force of their combined mana shakes the entire castle hall, allowing them to fully manifest the true strength of their newly formed bond. Massive golden chains erupt from the glowing circle, tightly binding the possessed commander in place, but the arrogant demon only laughs as he feels their magic power suddenly increase, confidently declaring that this hasty magic circle formation is still far too incomplete to hold him. Gilles admits he messed up the first surprise attack because his delicate sorcerer skills require practice, but our confident protagonist claims he's already adjusted and can win with the next magic circle, though the real challenge is figuring out how to force the rampaging demon to step on it, while Zeri warns him that the same trick won't work twice as Jean prepares her healing, prompting Kamuri to realize that the marshal's magic circle is directly powered by his own life force, which suddenly gives him a brilliant idea to set up a flawless, winning formation. He immediately orders Jean to deploy her barrier while Zeri activates her ultimate Archangel healing blessing, turning back to coordinate the final piece of his desperate plan with the corrupted marshal, who offers a knowing, sinister smile as he instantly catches on to our boy's strategy, drawing his glowing sword to proudly declare his legendary title as the Knight of the Maiden, as he unleashes a fiery aura and boldly challenges the possessed commander to a duel. This only amuses the arrogant demon who mocks the fragile sorcerer for trying to play knight. Meanwhile, a panicked Jean screams that Gilles will be permanently erased if his soul fades away. But the laughing monster boasts that destroying him will permanently seal their only defensive magic circle, leaving the brave marshal completely unfazed as he glares ahead with absolute, unwavering resolve, charging directly into a brutal, high-speed clash against the overwhelmingly powerful demonic entity. Unfortunately, the sheer force of the demon's purple lightning blast Gilles backward in pure agony, causing Jean to scream out his name in absolute horror as she watches him suffer, with the system spamming critical warnings that the marshal's HP is rapidly plummeting towards 0, prompting the smug commander to wonder why his opponent would ever choose such a suicidal path. A massive glowing magic circle suddenly manifests directly behind the startled demon commander, who realizes too late that the marshal's suicidal charge was just a clever distraction, while our boy suddenly feels his own strength rapidly draining from the massive mana cost, prompting him to scream at Gilles to survive and protect Jean at all costs, which the bloody marshal accepts with a determined smile to settle his lifelong regrets, unleashing a brilliant purple aura as he proudly fulfills his eternal knightly vow, leaving Jean to watch in absolute awe of his unwavering devotion as he stands tall, tearfully smiling because she knows he is still her loyal marshal deep down. Though the demon panics under his gaze, fearing the original host's mind might awaken, screaming that he is actually one of the legendary 4 heavenly kings of demons, before launching a devastating magical blast to shatter their defensive barrier once and for all, forcing Jean to desperately hold the line while calling out to our struggling protagonist, who is currently collapsing on the floor as his life force is completely consumed, until his vision fades to black and his heart completely stops beating, shocking Ziri, who panics because this is literally the 3rd time he has died, immediately casting her ultimate elegant healing spell to force his soul back, as our crazy protagonist relies on her magic to revive him from the brink, gasping back to life with a massive burst of newly restored energy, allowing the terrified demon to realize our boy is looping death to power the spell. Suddenly, massive golden chains erupt from the floor to bind the monster in place. Kamuri realizes that Ziri's clutch healing allowed him to pump insane amounts of life force into the spell, prompting our hyped protagonist to confidently declare that this is finally the absolute end, unleashing a massive, blinding pillar of holy light that completely engulfs the entire battlefield, as the terrified demon screams in pure agony while the overwhelming energy tears him apart, leaving a massive hole in the castle wall as the dust slowly begins to settle. Running over, Ziri desperately begs a heavily bleeding Kamuri to stop before he completely destroys himself, while Jean frantically heals Gilles, who proudly declares his victory thanks to her divine blessing. Nearby, the defeated commander violently coughs up a massive pool of dark blood, deeply ashamed that he let the darkness consume his mind and drive him to attack his own family, forcing a tearful Ziri to apologize for having to use such extreme measures to stop him. Smiling weakly, the uncle reassures her that they actually saved his soul from eternal torment, turning his gaze to praise Kamuri as a true knight who shares an incredibly deep bond with the princess, before his weakened body finally collapses onto the cold stone floor in complete defeat, which has our relieved protagonist celebrating their impossible victory over the legendary Demon King. However, Ziri quickly points out that their real challenge is turning her uncle back into a human, explaining that they can use her healing magic to flush out the remaining dark energy. But when she turns to Jean and Gilles for help, she only receives grim, silent stares, with the marshal solemnly explaining that a soul corrupted by darkness can only regenerate as a demonic magine, sending the poor princess into absolute despair as she realizes her uncle might be lost forever, until Kamuri confidently tells her to heal him anyway, promising they will find another way as long as he lives. Smiling weakly, Ziri's uncle gently pushes her hand away and refuses any further healing, explaining that since his soul is finally free from the darkness, he can die as a human, while praising the brave marshal for maintaining his knightly pride even after falling into corruption, prompting Gilles to bid the count a final farewell as they share one last respectful moment. Turning to Kamuri, the dying uncle entrusts the princess to him and begs him to save his family, gently wiping away his niece's tears with his fading hand as his body begins to dissolve, wishing her a blessed journey ahead as he slowly crumbles into a warm golden light, leaving the heartbroken princess completely speechless as she watches him fade away. She cries out in absolute despair as the last traces of her uncle vanish into the sky, while a system notification officially declares that their brutal battle against the Demon King has concluded, bringing a dramatic end to the chaotic raid as peace finally returns to the castle. Except the entire fortress suddenly bursts into a massive raging inferno that threatens to consume everything. A cheerful commander smiles happily, completely unfazed by the fire since the demon army has successfully scattered, leaving our panicked protagonist to scream in pure horror as all the precious research and loot burn, cursing Gilles in a hilarious rage for completely erasing the boss to prevent any chance of resurrection, desperately tapping his system interface to summon the marshal back and demand some serious answers. Unfortunately, Jean explains that Gilles has already returned to the darkness, leaving your boy completely empty-handed, who tearfully clings to Mizuki to whine about losing his hard-earned boss drops once again, while an annoyed Ziri accuses him of being incredibly greedy and going way too far, prompting our shameless hero to defend his actions by claiming he totally wanted to save her uncle. Ziri and Kamuri are completely stunned when a giant, delicious-looking burger is suddenly shoved right in their faces. As their little hooded companion reveals, she bought it to force them to finally make up. Sitting back-to-back on the rocks, our boy softly apologizes for having to take down her uncle. But Ziri gently reassures him that being defeated by him was exactly what her uncle wanted. Hearing her words brings a soft, relieved smile to Kamuri's face as he looks at her. Before their moment is interrupted by a panicked soldier warning them about the approaching Demon King, prompting our group to quickly wave goodbye as they prepare to board the restored train, leaving the exhausted gray-haired officer behind to finally deliver her highly anticipated public announcement, which immediately draws the suspicious glares of the local Ronin and military leaders standing nearby, declaring that the valuable local mine will now be managed by their own independent military force, sending the angry locals into a screaming fit as they curse the greedy Tokyo people. Approaching her tired subordinate, the beautiful Commander Aurelia warmly praises her for a job well done, explaining that both Mizuki and Kamuri are absolutely crucial for their top-secret RBR operation, though she admits it was an incredibly risky move to lure the demon army away, allowing their hidden surprise attack unit to easily slip inside and secure a flawless victory, which she pulled off by using her unique skill to brainwash the enemy leaders. This powerful ability, known as the ruler's brainwashing demon eye, completely dominates her targets, even though it has strict limits on the number of people she can control, but riling up the subordinates was easily handled by their loud red-haired instigator, leaving Aurelia highly amused that their crazy secret plan actually worked out so perfectly. Aurelia explains that the RBR project was born from combining her developed program and her skill, allowing them to gather massive user data and information by releasing it as a mobile game, which was originally designed to summon historical entities directly into reality by linking users' brains. But since nobody could actually summon anyone, she assumed the entire project was a failure, never expecting that our boy Kamuri would somehow transform it into a completely new skill, basically pulling off a straight-up miracle by summoning powerful spirits to fight alongside him. Apparently, spirit summoning is an ultra-rare skill only passed down in remote, forgotten kingdoms, making him their absolute last hope to defeat the Demon King with these historical entities, prompting Aurelia to suggest modifying the server so Kamuri always pulls ultra-rare gacha drops, while the developer panics because the autonomous AI is locked and she can only run guerrilla events, leaving her completely baffled as to how Gilles forced his way into the server anyway, which she quickly blames on him being a Majin before telling her friend to cheer up. Meanwhile, our group is finally aboard the train and heading straight toward their next destination, as their red-haired companion waves goodbye while yelling some hilarious advice about protecting his groin, prompting our embarrassed protagonist to shout back that he will learn secret karate techniques next time, before happily settling down to enjoy a delicious station bento box during the long ride. Everyone happily munches on their food, absolutely loving how delicious the local train meals taste, though Kamuri has to warn Jean to hide back in her box before the conductor spots her, while Ziri looks out the window deeply worried about the approaching threat of the Demon King. But our confident protagonist just grins, declaring he already has the ultimate winning plan ready. Kamuri explains his brilliant plan to keep Jean out as bait to summon Gilles again, intending to place the legendary marshal under permanent control while Ziri wonders how that's even possible, which our crazy protagonist completely brushes off by declaring himself an absolute genius destined to win, until Zeri casually asks what actually happened to the incredibly valuable local mine they fought for, instantly freezing our boy's triumphant laughter as a horrifying realization suddenly dawns on him, realizing he completely forgot about the precious loot before boarding this fast-moving train, prompting him to hilariously scream for the conductor to stop as they speed away empty-handed. With the main story wrapping up, the original author steps in to thank the amazing readers, expressing absolute joy at seeing Kamuri and the burger-loving Princess Ziri brought to life, while praising the perfect blend of comedy and action that made this webtoon so fun, promising that our gacha-obsessed hero will definitely continue his wild journey alongside his companions, as they face whatever crazy challenges lie ahead in this dangerous fantasy world, leaving us with one final heartfelt thank you to everyone who supported this epic adventure.